30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Looks at me, he goes, the natty? Really? He said it was like someone calling something cool the bomb. I think people are still saying the natty.
This is not about hip or not hip. It's not like any 21-year-old walking in Brooklyn and saying the natty.
Do you call winning the championship the chip?
If you had said he's got 2 chips, oh boy, I would have really given you a look.
Washed has somehow maintained a much longer presence than it ever should have.
I get my lettuce at the grocery store triple wide.
This is the man claiming to be the coolest person on the show.
I'm definitely hipper than Ack.
Ackerman,
I don't know about that. I wouldn't go there.
Wearing a Ralph Lauren polo 3/4.
Yeah,
sure.
What's wrong with that? A little
You
class.
make Eli Manning look like he's ready to walk the catwalk at Fashion Week.
Who, you Ralph Lauren himself?
When did the Mannings become fashion icons?
They did not.
Step off, Dave.
Here are Maggie and Perloff.
Rebound to Hurley for UConn, and how fitting. The coach's son is going to dribble out his dad's championship. 76-59. Every dog has his day, and this day belongs to the Huskies. UConn has its 5th national championship in school history.
That was Westwood 1. That's how it sounded. Kevin Kugler on the call, and he nailed it. UConn wins their 5th national title. Perloff, so happy to be doing this show with you today. Maggie and Perloff with you across the country on CBS Sports Radio. We're also streaming live, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. And I mean this as no disrespect to the men's game, to the men's tournament that we just watched. But if you're asking me to make a bet or make an investment on either the men's tournament or the women's tournament, the men's college basketball game or the women's college basketball game in general for the next 5 to 10 years, I'm sorry, but I'm investing in the women's game. And again, this was great last night. UConn won number 5. We can talk about whether they're a blue blood. Dan Hurley deserves his moment. This was great. But to me, the women's tournament has this level of growth that has started now where I don't even know what the ceiling could be. Whereas on the men's side, while things are going great with NIL and guys can transfer and all of that, but there is a lack of star power right now that you saw in this tournament that made it, I think, harder for people to really grab onto this tournament and the way that they were captivated by the women's tournament.
I absolutely agree on this year. But the question moving forward, was this a Caitlin Clark-generated bump?
Right.
Was it really starting to grow right now? Maybe I think you could point to social media as part of the reason, maybe. Or was this just because everyone tuned into Caitlin Clark? Because the numbers went up a huge percentage from last year,
right,
and all the big ratings were Caitlin Clark games. Would they have been that high without her?
Okay, well, here's why I would be willing to make the investment into the women's game.
Yeah.
Because Caitlin Clark, I know, is going to be in college for a while. I know she's going to be back next year, and I know Angel Reese is going to to be back next year.
That's 1 year.
Okay, so the next Caitlin Clark or the next star, I know I get them for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Bronny James is most likely going to be in the tournament next year. I'm not saying stars don't exist on the men's side. We're about to have LeBron James's kid playing in college. It's going to dominate everything, right, on men's college basketball. But he's only going to be there for a year. So say they lose in the second round of the tournament. Say they lose in the Sweet 16. That was it. And then he's gone. That's not his fault. Good for him. He can go to the NBA. But it's hard to grab on and latch on to some of the men's college basketball players because if they're really good, then they're probably going to be gone to the NBA. They also have the G League they can go to. They can go overseas. There's just a lot of other places for them to show their talent.
Right, but that started in what year? 1998? So it's been 25 years of that one-and-done situation? Actually, I don't know. I'm assuming it was somewhere. When did they stop?
No, because you could still go to the NBA from high school up until...
But it's been a long time where everything's been one-and-done in college basketball. Since John Calipari was coaching Kentucky, it seems like that's been... And it hasn't been this closing the gap between women's ratings and men's rating until this year.
Right.
So the one-and-done wasn't killing the sport comparatively before, or it was probably slowly, but
I think a little bit, and I think it's also, and this is not something that I'm begrudging the players, but I think it's going to be interesting how the transfer portal specifically impacts college basketball, because you have guys who can basically join this, form a mercenary team, and then whatever their run is their run. We just saw FAU and San Diego State, two teams with tons of transfers. And then we saw LSU on the women's side with tons of transfers. They won. And those two teams on the men's side, FAU and San Diego State, both went really far. But if you're going to consistently have this movement where you're constantly kind of moving around, I don't know. Quite frankly, I think it's just about the star power. I think that you need to develop the players into stars and then let people get to know them and then build on it.
But nothing's changed on that for a long time. Next year, and I do agree, it's been the major problem with college basketball. I think if anything, college basketball, men's college basketball, is going to get a little better because of NIL. So you're not going to, this G League, no one's going to the G League anymore. That's not going to be a thing in 3 years.
Really?
Why would you not be on TV when you can get paid more in college basketball? It makes no sense. So
you probably can't get paid.
So next year, there's gigantic stars coming to the game that are going to be must-watch people. You're going to get Bronny. You're going to get DJ Wagner. I was just watching highlights of Justin Edwards, who's going to Kentucky. He's the #1 player. He is insane. So I think you're going to get a bump from these stars. You're going to get 1 year of them, but that's something. Remember when Zion was at Duke? Those games were more popular than any NBA game.
I know,
so you can have brief star power.
He had the star power, right?
But those guys are coming back. DJ Wagner is going to be a megastar. He's going to be dunking on everyone's head, and people are going to tune in for him.
Okay, I ask you though, if a team of freshmen, or primarily freshmen, is ever going to really be able to have a big run again, and I'll tell you why. Because look at what we're seeing now with guys who are able to transfer, and now it was with COVID, that's obviously going to taper off a little bit with guys getting the extra COVID year. But you have grown men out there. I mean, some of the guys in the tournament this time around were 23, 24 years old. And again, I'm not begrudging it, but those guys are going to beat freshmen.
Yeah, but it's been the way forever. I mean, except for the one and done team that Calipari won. So Calipari's been the dominant.
Like the Fab Five, in 91.
Yeah, and a lot of them stayed 2 years. Right? But John Calipari's out-recruited everybody and only had one title. Right. So we know the one and done's don't win, but they add so much buzz to the sport. This year was an anomaly. It was just incredibly lacking star power. Right. I think it's going to come back. That's all I'm saying is I agree the women's game is going to be more popular, but I think this year was particularly bad. And I think this Final Four was particularly bad matchup-wise. I think they really almost could not have done worse. And there's just no way. Last year's Final Four, they had Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, and Villanova.
Yeah.
And this year was San Diego State, Florida.
And Coach K retiring, which added a whole other layer.
Yeah, this year was Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, Miami, and UConn. I mean, these two things. So the question is, and I think the important question is, what will be next year? And I bet that there are more big names.
Okay, but hold on one second. If the sport is really in a I don't want to say healthy, because I think it's better that the guys can get paid, like NIL. Yeah. It's definitely better. It's better you can transfer. Remember back in the day, coaches could block transfers. It was such nonsense, and it was so weighted towards the coaches and the schools, and no power for the players. So I like this. But if your sport is truly in a super healthy place, does it matter who makes it to the Final Four? It doesn't matter who makes it to the Super Bowl.
But
we're all tuning in. And I know the NFL is such a behemoth, that might not be fair. But when your sport is massively successful, I think it doesn't matter who's in the Final Four. People tune in, and that the tournament makes stars. The tournament doesn't need stars. This year, the tournament didn't make a lot of stars.
Right. Obviously, if that's the case, then the women's sport has a big problem. Because you just said, because if it wasn't Iowa in there, if it was South Carolina, LSU, that rating would have been half of what it was.
Right.
So is that an indictment of the women's game, or are you saying that that's an indictment of the men's game? Because it affects both sports in a similar way.
Okay, but considering the head start that the men's game has had over the women's game, they should, granted, the ratings were still really good last night. The 30 million people, whatever, tuned in, 10 million for the women's tournament. But So it's still crushing in terms of the TV. But you've had such a massive head start over the women's game. You should be that much out far ahead.
Yeah.
You should be in a place where we care. No matter who's in the Final Four, we care about it. The women's game is still coming along, and it's women like Caitlin Clark and that program and stars like Angel Reese that become another stepping stone that get it even healthier and healthier.
Okay, a lot of this I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I think the women's game is going up. I think social media, I think Caitlin Clark is a huge benefit, not just because of her star power, but everyone realized, we could shoot 5 feet behind the three-point line.
Yeah.
And that style is so much more exciting than South Carolina. I'm sorry, that's a fact.
It's Tim Duncan versus Steph Curry, right?
Yeah,
it's Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, we all acknowledge his greatness, but watching him bang down low for 15 years was not fun.
The Spurs gutted an entire decade of the NBA with boredom, right? So I think you need that exciting style of play, and I think you're going to have it because same thing that happened in the NBA. People realize, hey, if you really focus on it, you can hit this long shot. I think we're going to see a lot of Caitlin Clark clones. By the way, of both colors, just so I want to point out.
Right.
It's not going to be, that doesn't mean we're going to have these all-white teams out of Iowa.
No, I know what you meant.
Yeah. So I think you're going to get that game to be a little more exciting and wide open, which is great. The NBA did this when Curry came along in 2015.
Yep.
And some would say it's gone a little too three-point heavy, but I think that's good. So I think that if women's basketball does that, now men's basketball, here's the question, though. Was this just an anomaly that it was a bit of a down year without stars? Because there really were no freshman stars even. I don't even know. There was really nothing.
Brandon Miller, but became almost infamous
that was
as opposed to just being a star. I mean, there was a lot more to his story, clearly, with what happened at Alabama.
And he was at Alabama.
Right, which already has a lot of national attention.
Well, no, I'm just saying nobody cares about Alabama basketball. Has no history whatsoever. You just generally do not tune in for Alabama basketball. If he was at Duke or North Carolina, then I think he would have gotten a lot more attention. So you're right. The one freshman star was Brandon Miller. Great.
Yeah, which is was not exactly what you wanted front and center for the tournament, but. He actually didn't play well in the tournament. Although, legal issues, he has no legal issues, but the whole tragic shooting aside. I think the other part of this that I don't want to say is hurting the men's game because I still love it, but it's just it's a reality of the men's game. You talked about a lot. If you switch the jerseys on a lot of these 15 seeds and 2 seeds and 16s and 1s, you might not be able to tell who was who. The upsets are always great. Fairleigh Dickinson University taking out Purdue, UMBC taking out UVA a couple years ago are great, but they are becoming a little bit more common. And they're still electrifying. They're still exhilarating. We love the calls. Furman and all that is phenomenal. Princeton going to the Sweet 16. All that stuff is awesome. But as the upsets become more commonplace, it does take a little of what is magical about the men's tournament and maybe makes it just a little less special. Again, nobody's fault. The guys are getting better. They're transferring. The teams are getting more stacked. There's maybe less of a gap between how the best guys in college basketball and then the ones who are, playing it on smaller teams. But the more 16s who upset 1s, the more 15s that upset 2s, the more it becomes commonplace, Yeah, no, that's a great point. Fairleigh Dickinson should have been way outclassed in the first round, and they just weren't. And you're right. I think it's going to become more. It's a big problem. You can have Cinderellas early, but you can't have Cinderellas you can't have David without Goliath. Right. I keep saying so. There aren't enough Goliaths. But all that St. Peter's was awesome last year. Everyone was rooting for St. Peter's, and they made it all the way to the Elite Eight. It was fantastic. FDU was a little more traditional in the sense that they beat the one and then lost in the second round, but. Still thrilling.
I'm just thinking more and more about it, though. It is funny that we're making this argument because next year is going to be big.
I think you're going to have some stars next year, but I'm not
just some stars. You're going to have the big star.
I'm asking you to make a bet, though, on growth for the future.
Yeah, growth, higher percentage women. I still think the men's will have higher rating, but next year is going to be a lot of buzz.
Oh, the men will always have a higher rating.
Yeah. Growth.
That I would not ever claim.
But I do think the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, it's not a guarantee that this is going to stick. You could have a higher rating this year than the next 2 years.
It just depends.
There's no way.
Like you said, how many clones does it spawn?
Even so, there was something about just her style of team. Iowa has no chance of getting back to the final game. They were clearly the inferior talent team in both Final Four rounds. They were a 2 seed this year, but they couldn't get a single rebound against either team. They were clearly
No, but
outmanned.
they got all the way to the championship
Yeah,
game. I
because
mean, that's where it obviously
tried this
crushed them against LSU.
Yeah, they had this wild style of this, this deep shooter and this passing. I think people are going to figure that out. I'd be shocked if Caitlin Clark made another run. I just think teams are going to gear up to stop her.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard. So that's another problem. But I'm telling you, Bronny next year.
It was harder for Steph Curry the second year in the tournament
Big
than
time.
the first. Yeah. When he was at Davidson.
Great example.
Yeah.
And same in the NBA. Eventually, people started coming after Steph, and he had to get Kevin Durant on his team. But
he just won another title with Andrew Wiggins. So.
You have to admit, next year with Bronny that's going to be like their Caitlin Clark.
Okay, but that team's got to be. Well, no, Bronny is going to be a star. But the question is, is Bronny's not a volume shooter from what we can tell?
Well, he did hit 5-3. I mean,
in the McDonald's All-American game.
I mean, it doesn't matter. He could score 10 points a game. If LeBron James is courtside at an Ohio State, Michigan State game, it's going to be a huge rating every night. It's not because of Bronny. I'm sorry, I love Bronny, but LeBron James is going to make this the Caitlin Clark next year. So men's is going to have a little bump, and we're going to revisit this next year. And you're going to say, well, this year didn't count because of Bronny.
Yeah,
and I agree with you. And by the way, I totally agree with you.
Just save this tape and we'll
But
play
the question I have for women's basketball is, will they build off Caitlin Clark, or was this an anomaly?
Yeah.
Because there have been lots of stars, lots of huge stars, and they've never had this big a jump. Diana Taurasi, I've never seen a better player.
She was amazing.
And
she has the personality.
Yeah,
she's good.
And she's hysterical, and they did not have that jump.
You want to know one of the things I think that ironically hurt Taurasi? They were so dominant.
Yep.
It's like you've got no
Great
peers. Who's going to come for the crown?
That was one of the best parts about Iowa is it just wasn't a coronation of South Carolina.
Yeah.
Because it was an upset. It was a Villanova beating Georgetown. So it's interesting. Yeah. We'll revisit this next year. It'll be a really interesting conversation.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. You're welcome to weigh in on the future of the men's college basketball tournament. If you'd like, you can also watch us, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio, where the Weirdos are already in full effect. That's what we call the people in our chat, because they count down to 4:20 in every time zone on this planet. So I think Argentina's up in a few minutes. So everyone in Argentina, get ready.
Yeah,
your moment is coming.
Get ready, Nova Scotia, baby. It's on.
Nova Scotia, I think they're already pretty baked. I mean, I think it's ahead of us, right? Okay. Perloff is also on a one-man crusade, but I'm not really sure why.
Oh, I am? On what
You're
topic?
taking on all comers about UConn as a blue blood. This is like your cause that you've taken up.
No, I mean, that's an easy one. I did an informal poll in the newsroom. There's not a single person who thinks UConn's a blue blood. So I'd be...
You're sitting next to one.
Well, okay. No, I did it. That's why I did it out in the newsroom. Yeah. I already knew you thought they were blue blood. But there's no way. I mean, UConn, blue blood, they don't even go together.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. So we'll get into that. Big moment last night. Jim Nance says goodbye. But don't worry, we're actually going to hear Nance in just a few days. He's calling the Masters. It's fine. Yeah. Emotional, though. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Also, we got trouble brewing in the NFL. Big changes could be on the horizon for one team that I would also call a blue blood of the NFL. We'll get to that in just a moment.
Wow, I know what team you're talking about. They're definitely not a blue blood.
The bar is high for you. All right, Maggie and Perloff, you want to watch the show, please do. YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio. We're across the country and all of our incredible CBS Sports Radio affiliates. We're also streaming on the free Odyssey app, and we are on SiriusXM channel 158. So glad to have you. A lot to do today. Get on board. 855-212-4CBS.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie Gray, I hope you are sitting down.
I am.
I prepared a PowerPoint presentation, an Excel spreadsheet as to why the University of Connecticut men's basketball team is not a blue blood. Now, the women certainly are blue blood.
This sounds like Homework, the radio show.
Yes. Basically, get your calculator out.
Yeah.
All right, here's some of my reasons.
Okay, not a blue blood for UConn.
Yes.
Feels like you're going out of your way here. Okay,
well,
go ahead. Go ahead.
For not a blue blood, you know a blue blood when you see it, and they're clearly not a blue blood. But anyway, that's
like
my number one school. But I looked into why. One, I think it's a very regional school. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be a blue blood if you're regional. Like Kansas and Kentucky are regional schools. But UConn feels particularly UConn-y. Does anyone in the world from out of state come into UConn?
I don't know.
I looked it up. 72% of UConn students at stores are from Connecticut. It's very.
That's pretty high.
Yeah, it's
I didn't
definitely.
realize it was that high.
You don't go to UConn unless you're from Connecticut, so it doesn't quite have that national appeal. Not again, similar things for Kansas and Kentucky. So that's not the only reason.
Right.
Okay. Number one, their success is more recent. There's just no doubt about it. Their first Final Four was in 1999.
Right.
UCLA, Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, they've been doing it for decades.
Well, I mean, 1999, it is decades now.
Well, blue blood, so I think you
have to go back to the 60s and 50s?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what a blue blood is. I think there's a reason.
Okay, but can I present a counter? I'm sorry for your PowerPoint presentation. Maybe this is on slide 5. But yes, should a program be penalized just because they weren't good in the 50s and
it's not
60s?
penalized.
It's like nobody was, so not everybody had John Wooden and Adolph Rupp. Like that doesn't mean you could never get a seat at the table to me.
Right, but it's also why you don't see random generations of UConn fans living in Wyoming. I mean, this is not there. These things are generational, I think. Your grandfather passed along to your father, passed along to you. It happens in Connecticut, I'm sure. But, okay, third thing. One of the reasons they've had so much success is they don't have the gigantic recruits and superstars that NBA stars. How many Hall of Fame NBA players have ever gone there? Just one, as far as I can remember.
Well, yeah, Ray Allen. They've sent dozens of players to the NBA.
Yeah, but not nearly. I mean, they've had. I looked at their draft.
Is Rip Hamilton a Hall of Famer? No.
I mean, Rip Hamilton and Kemba Walker are the other two good pros.
Yeah.
And Caron Butler was okay. Charlie Villanueva was okay. But they're nothing like North Carolina, Duke, UCLA, Kansas, who just have a who's who in the history of Hall of Famers. So I think there's a little bit of that. Okay. They're not an NBA factory by any means.
Well,
I mean, what's the last guy who was drafted out of there?
Well, Book Knight, probably. But so they're sending guys to the NBA. They might not turn out to be like the greatest players of all time. Ben Gordon was a good player.
Yeah, who flamed out.
Well, flamed out for some other unfortunate reasons.
But it's not North Carolina and Duke and UCLA and Kansas and Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky basically has 3 all-star teams out of their university. So I think that's another reason. The other thing, too, they just aren't as consistent. I actually had this from DCL out in the newsroom.
Yeah.
They missed a tourney 8 times since their first Final Four in 99, where Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Duke haven't missed a combined that many times. Kansas especially is there every year.
Okay, but
UConn's been up and down.
But what about the titles?
They've had a lot of titles, but they're kind of like newer titles.
But even if they've missed the tournament on a few occasions, first of all, some of that stuff has to also do with administrative things. I mean, the way that things ended with Kevin Ollie, that was really, unfortunate, and that has nothing to do with the players, but that hurts recruitment, and that's the school, more so kind of set them back before Hurley took over. But if you, how do you do the math there? For every missed, tournament, how much does a championship make up for that? I think you got to weight the championships a little bit higher, and they got 5. You mentioned it, Kentucky with Cal 1.
I think that
I know Kentucky has more than one, but
I think the way this to me, recent. I looked at a list. The blue bloodness to me actually goes almost directly corresponding to how many tournament berths you've had in your history.
Tournament berths are okay, but shouldn't championships also count?
Well, okay, maybe, but here's the tournament. The most ever. I'm gonna read you the list: Kentucky 1, then North Carolina 2, then Kansas 3, then UCLA 4, then Duke 5. Then right after that is Indiana, Villanova, Louisville, Notre Dame, Syracuse. To me, yeah. So basically, I put UConn in that next level, 6 or 7.
So
look, basically, UConn's tied with Arkansas, Marquette. They're a little below Michigan State. They're like the new bloods. They're not the blue bloods.
But
they're the new bloods.
Trounce them in championships.
Yeah, but to be a blue blood, the blue blood title is more about history. And even so, they're like Clemson in football. They have these championships, but they don't quite have the history of consistent excellence I need out of my blue blood.
Okay, but I would say that if you've done it more recently, that's more impressive. Because you can talk about going back to times where there were barely any African-American players or black players. I mean, are those counting? We talk about this with Stu all the time because he's a big Yankee fan. It's congrats on all those 1920s titles. It's a real murderer's row back then before integration. Congratulations. But listen, it was a different time. But I would say I think that the more recent ones actually it's even more difficult. Now listen, put aside last night. UConn, they trounced in this tournament. I mean, they were basically not challenged in this tournament.
Yeah,
Did they have the hardest path? I mean, listen, they took out Gonzaga. I'm not taking anything away.
Did they beat any Power 5 conference teams the entire time?
Well, but Gonzaga is like, that anomaly that's...
Anyway, but...
they count in men's basketball.
But you said the Yankees, when's the last time they won a World Series?
2009.
And how many of the Giants won since then?
Probably 3.
3, right. And nobody thinks the Giants are in the same conversation as the Yankees historically.
I know, but I would say maybe the Giants should be, what they've done should be more impressive than the Yankees winning titles in the 20s with Babe Ruth or whatever.
Maybe impressive, but the blue bloodness is, basically there's the same thing happens in every sport. There's just some programs that are historically more significant because of history. And that's what when you say blue blood, it's not who's had the best last 20 years. It's who has that tradition and history.
Okay. But I think that as time goes on, new tradition starts, histories are added upon, life's long. This is a hopefully long continuum for all of us. And I think you deserve a seat at the table. Like, if UConn doesn't have a seat at the blue blood table now after 5 titles in 25 years, then that's a problem with the way we're looking at the sport.
If you were a young kid in L.A. who couldn't be farther from UConn, and you're looking at all these, if you have a UCLA, Kentucky, and North Carolina hat in front of you, and you pick a UConn hat, there's something wrong with you, because that is a weird fan. There's no way.
Maybe you're a big Cliff Robinson fan.
UConn fans are not. UConn's not going to catch fire nationally. It's just not. Nobody west of the Quinnipiac River cares about UConn. That's how I feel. I feel Kansas, UCLA, just everything about them. These programs are just bigger, more historically rich, and they're a little spicier. You have to admit.
Disrespect to Khalid El-Amin. No,
okay, I love Khalid El-Amin. He was amazing.
They have tournament darlings and people we remember.
And also, too, the other thing is, they have 5 titles, but they've only been to 6 Final Fours. I mean, they just happen to win. They happen to win every time they're there.
That's what we use with Michael Jordan that's what people like you use with Michael Jordan to try to say he's dominant over LeBron, because every time Jordan got to a finals, he won. Meanwhile, LeBron's been to more finals, even though he's lost. So that should be a point for UConn. Basically, every time they get to the Final Four, they're winning. Right. And it's not just like against the San Diego States. They've beaten Duke several times. Like, I know they beat Butler in one of them, but
I mean, I don't even know. I can't even keep track of what conference UConn is. Weren't they in the Patriot League or something 3 years ago? Or
what are you talking about?
They
left
were in
the Big East forever. Then they were in the American.
Yeah,
that was not right.
So they beat up on Fordham. I don't even know what was the American.
You want to know who else was coming out of the American?
That's not a blue blood move. Yeah.
Houston.
Well, okay. Did
University of Houston was out of the American?
Remind me the time
number 1 seed.
Kentucky basketball left the SEC to go to the Big West for 3 years.
That's the administration's problem. That's not like the program's problem.
But it adds to the continuity and sort of the legacy and the tradition. And I don't know. I just feel UConn is a different kind of team. I like the Clemson analogy. Clemson could win 5 titles right now, and they're never going to be in the conversation with Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama. It's just the history is just too overwhelming.
Yeah, but I would say, like, if Clemson keeps having runs, like, say every 6 years they have a run like they did with Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. Like, say that Dabo has a run, he wins 2 national titles if he wins 5 in 25 years, then we might start talking about him with the Michigans and with the Ohio States.
You might talk about him. I think it's going to take a long time. I mean, Ohio State-Michigan history goes back to 1935 or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
There's just so much there. And also, Clemson has the same thing as UConn. It's a very regional school. It's in this tiny place in South Carolina. It doesn't really recruit nationally.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have students in it. Anyway.
By the way, speaking of, like, town, is, like, Storrs, Connecticut alive today? They were using I saw a video of students using some kind of pole as a battering ram.
They were ripping out the light poles from the ground, and they were getting into the locked buildings because they really wanted to study.
Yeah, right. Okay, Carlos, thank you. They were breaking into buildings on campus.
Yeah.
For what?
Because you got to get that late cram session, and you're watching so much tournament time that you're like, oh, now I really got to focus on this midterm or whatever's coming up.
It's like comparative politics due tomorrow. Oh, no.
Listen, I'm from a town where you just light cars on fire and climb up. And,
at least they grease the pole spurs.
Yeah.
Philly.
I've never understood the urge to destroy things after a title, but it's a thing. You have to admit.
I don't know, and you can insert your own joke here because I've never watched any of my teams win, so I knew that was where you were going to go.
Yeah.
But I also don't think I would get the urge to break something.
It's like the 4th of July. You celebrate your country's independence by blowing up a small part of it.
Hopefully not.
I mean,
Jason Pierre-Paul style.
That's true. That's true. But generally, you try not to destroy property on July 4th.
You try. Yeah, I don't get the urge. Listen, ripping the goalposts out at Tennessee, floating it down the river. That's
cool.
kind of fun.
Yeah.
I get it. But just taking a light post and battery ramming it basically into the student union, that I don't understand. Ackerman.
Don't try that at home.
I remember I was on the campus of the University of Maryland. I didn't go there, but I was on the campus of the University of Maryland when they won the title in 2001, the Juan Dixon, Steve Blake year. And they were just setting couches on fire. And I'm like, okay, fun, right? Couch goes up in flames, by the way, in 2 seconds. Never knew they were that flammable. But then tomorrow, where are you sitting?
That's exactly it. I don't know why. Why would you do that?
It's the old West Virginia move, right?
Yeah, that's a West Virginia move, but they were doing it on the campus that night.
But that makes no sense. That's the one thing. Okay, our team won. Let's go burn down the village. The Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks in 1994 didn't even win.
And they burned down.
Yeah. The one that always struck me, it's funny, NHL. I was thinking, remember the Colorado Avalanche lit the entire town on fire for an NHL title in Denver? Like, isn't even an NHL town, and they lit everything on fire. Which it wasn't even funny at the time.
Celebrate, don't be destructive.
Well, I know we can say that, but the question is, where does that?
It's a mob mentality. It's like a hooliganism that takes over.
Where does that urge come from?
Say it to that shirtless guy who put the battery ram through the whatever that was, like the dining hall.
I get it a little bit, and it just could sound weird. When I was at that Eagles-Niners game where Brock Purdy got hurt, you get caught up into the let's just destroy things mode. It was
when you were winning.
When they were winning, there was a mob mentality that was happening at the link. I don't think that's an overstatement. It was like the official made one. We were up 21-7. The official made one more bad call. I felt like the entire crowd was going to run out there and murder him.
And you guys were leading.
They were leading. Yes, it was this incredible energy that you're right. It's the energy that you get when you put thousands of drunk students together.
Yeah,
causes a lot of damage.
Listen, we're not even talking about European soccer, which puts us all to shame. I mean, you can't even have in South America, you can't even have fans in the arena together. Stadium. Whatever.
I went to a game in Argentina. There were armed guards with machine guns all over the place because they were worried that the two sides were going to fight. Yeah, good times.
And you live to tell about it. 855-212-4CBS. Kind of makes Yankees Red Sox look a little tame, huh?
Oh, it really is. It's funny. Our sports, Michigan, Ohio State, those are a big deal. They're nothing compared to international soccer.
It's crazy. 855-212-4227. A lot to do here today. Want to hear from you as well. You're welcome to weigh in on the chat, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. Also, 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. Okay. What's the crazy thing you ever saw in a celebration? I mean, we know in Philly, the guy who ate the horse poop. You don't have to tell us that one. That one we got. That's on the Mount Rushmore of idiotic things you could ever do.
Yeah, but also not surprising.
There's so much I could do there. But
by the way, I know a lot of people in Philly like Dr. Jill Biden's idea of sending Iowa to the White House because Philly's
because you wanted to go to the White House.
Philly's been losing a lot of championships lately.
Phillies could have been there.
Phillies, Eagles, the Philadelphia Union soccer team. Yeah, I get this. The second place team should be celebrated.
I never tied that in that Jill Biden is a big Philadelphia fan.
Well,
this is just a loser's lament.
Weren't you joking me the other day that the Sixers are definitely losing in the finals because that's the Philly thing to do nowadays?
Listen, I'm sorry. It's written in the stars.
Listen, there's nothing you can say. The facts are the facts.
Congrats on making it to the finals and losing.
The funny thing is, we'll take it. It wasn't that bad. I mean, the Phillies, they won 87 games. It was thrilling. So, and listen, obviously they're 0-4 right now. I'll take the World Series, Maggie. I'll take a loss in the World Series.
You just want the loser's White House visit. I'm so glad they walked that back. We'll get to that, too. Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, has walked back the comment, but, oh, boy. Oh, brother. That was an all-timer. 855-212-4CBS. The Iowa should also get to go to the White House along with LSU because the runner-up never gets invited. But now all of a sudden we want to Do it in the name of what? Sportsmanship?
Yeah, well, Jalen Hurts has some free time.
Yeah, he does.
He's a great guy to have at the White House.
Yeah, he should be working on that contract.
Reese Hoskins is rehabbing, but he'll make it down there.
212-4CBS. All right, coming up, we will get into Perloff is doubling down on one of his bets. What is it? We'll tell you next. Don't move. Or do it all after this CBS Sports Update with Rich Ackerman.
Sports Flag.
Well, the NCAA champion was crowned last night. In a little more than a week, the NBA playoffs will begin. The Bucks looking to lock up the top seed in the East. They're 2 games up on the Celtics with 4 to play, and will face the Wizards in Washington while Boston meets the Sixers in Philadelphia. As for the Wizards, they'll be without 5 players tonight due to injuries and illness. The Denver Nuggets have been atop the West for most of the season and currently 3 games in front of the Grizzlies. They'll face the Rockets in Houston. Head coach Mike Malone has his eyes on the long view over the short one.
I think everyone in this room fully understands the regular season doesn't mean anything. It's been great. I love the fact that we've been in first place since the middle of December. We've seen a lot of guys step up throughout the season. But this is all geared towards the postseason and how we perform.
The Grizzlies will host the Blazers tonight. Baseball, the Diamondbacks and Padres get underway at the top of the hour in San Diego, while the Twins go for their 5th straight tonight in Miami against Sandy Alcantara. The reigning Cy Young Award winner did not fare in the decision in the season opener, and the 4-0 Rays are in Washington. I'm Rich Acker.
Coming up later on the Zach Gelb Show, we recap the national championship game with Terrence Oglesby, plus it's Masters Week, so get your best Masters dinner menu ready, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific.
Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff talked a lot about the NCAA tournament, both the men's and the women's side today. Let's turn our attention to basketball, the pro variety, and let's lake and bake.
Lake and bake.
All right, Perloff, you want to enlighten everybody about the massive bet you've made on those Los Angeles Lakers?
Massive bet. I put my third $10 investment into the Lakers' future, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. I'm pulling up the odds now. I originally got them at 40-1.
Yeah.
When things looked really bad, and today they're 16-1. So they're 8th in the NBA. The only teams above them are the Memphis Grizzlies, who are at plus 1,500. Then the Warriors, Sixers, Nuggets, Suns, Celtics, and Bucks. So that's not great odds. At 40-1, it's a good bet.
Was this to make? Does this to win the title? Okay.
To win it all.
I wasn't sure if it was to get to the final.
No, this is to win it all. I think that the reason it's gone up so much is because who is this Anthony Davis, Maggie? He looks amazing. They've won 6 of 7. They're in position to move up in the draft standings, which they really don't need to. They play the Jazz tonight. I think that they're in great shape. If you have this Anthony Davis and LeBron, who looks like he needed 3 weeks of rest, looks rejuvenated, all of a sudden they have this good defense, that I think they're the number 2 in the league since the trade deadline in three-point defense. Something's happening here, Maggie. It's happening.
Yeah.
As someone said, I'll probably mush them right here, but I feel better and better about my bet.
I believe I forgot who said it in the chat. Largent, I believe, said it. Perloff, get on that bandwagon and crash it. Too late, guys. Happened
before.
He's already on. He's got a front row seat.
The other thing at Function is the West is so wide open too, right? Who's the juggernaut there? Help me out, Maggie.
There is not a juggernaut right now in the West. I think the one, and I can't even call him a sleeping giant because I was not a huge believer, but if the Phoenix Suns are healthy and keep playing like this, then I mean,
definitely.
That's probably going to be tough. But right now, the fact that the Lakers are a half game behind Golden State for 6th is fantastic for them because then they get to avoid the play-in games, which is obviously what you want, right? And not
yes, you do, but you don't want that 5 seed.
The 5 seed
you just don't want to see Phoenix in the first round,
right? You don't want the 4-5 matchup. Let the Clippers handle Phoenix,
right? So would you rather have, if you were the Lakers, would you rather be 7 and have to win a play-in game and avoid that problem with the Suns?
I I think I'd probably rather be 6.
6 is ideal.
6 is ideal. And listen, it's not going to be easy to take out Sacramento Kings, if at all. Like, Sacramento's ready for their moment. I know we're on in Northern California. I know we have a lot of Sacramento Kings fans who are super excited, as they should be. I'm not saying what I think. I'm saying what the league thinks. Brian Windhorst even said this on ESPN. He's plugged in as anybody. Teams are gunning for that 6th spot because they see the Sacramento Kings as being vulnerable. Now, I don't think so. I think Memphis might be a little bit more vulnerable than Sacramento. And so for that, yes, do you want that 7 seed so you play the 2? As Memphis is the 2 right now.
Yeah, I think they're both vulnerable. I think the scariest teams in the West are Phoenix and Golden State. Golden State gets Wiggins back.
Yep.
Golden State, the problem is they played so badly because they're terrible on the road.
Yep.
But don't you sense that once the playoffs start, whatever that playoff DNA they have will just kick in and they'll be really, really hard to beat? Definitely.
But, I mean, you should be able to say the same thing about LeBron and Anthony Davis.
That's true.
Right. But they have a different cast of characters around them. Yeah. Like, is Austin Reeves going to keep hitting from 41% from 3 if they continue this run? I don't know.
Do you see Stu? Whenever I mention Austin Reeves, Stu, who's a Lakers fan, acts like it's Christmas. I mean, how did Austin Reeves get so good on defense, too? What's going on there,
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, he's really evolved as a player in the past few months. He's a totally different guy, and he's really helped the team a lot.
Even Hachimura had a couple blocks or whatever the other day. I was like, whoa, okay.
By the way, and I also think the Clippers are a bit of a sleeping giant if Paul George comes back. I mean, that's a thing. This West, it's so bizarre that all the teams are so closely packed.
Yeah.
And no one's mentioning the possible MVP, Nikola Jokic in Denver. They're pretty good, too.
He's not the MVP anymore. I thought we all already went through that, and then everyone gave it to Embiid already, your boy.
No, but then Embiid sat out that game against Joker. I think it's back.
For one game? You don't miss out on the MVP for one game sitting out against the Nuggets.
You do if it's a matchup against the guy that you want to beat for the MVP.
It's narrowed
really, Carlos? You would dock Embiid points?
I'm good for the 3 in a row for Joker.
Well, just because Embiid sat that game out, which might not have even been Embiid's.
Soft. It looks soft. He should have played him.
I know, but the problem is it might not have been Embiid's call. Like, that's the funky thing about load management is it's usually not the player who's saying, I want to sit out. It's usually the team.
The player just can't be like, hey, I'm good, put me in, coach. At least suggest that the notion of playing against Jokic?
I don't think so. It probably depends who you are, and honestly, Embiid should have that agency. Of course he should, right? Like, he should be able to stand up to the organization, but maybe he doesn't.
No, first of all, I like it. I don't care about the stupid MVP. Load manage and win a title for once, Joel Embiid.
Well, we already know that's not happening. It's Philadelphia 76ers.
That means James Harden just passes the ball to the other team. But honestly, this speaks to something. Would you rather, if you're a Sixers fan, wouldn't you rather see Embiid well-rested and ready for the playoffs than to win a meaningless MVP trophy?
Yes, but none of us are Sixers fans.
Well, I am, and I tell you, I don't care about that MVP.
I think I speak for everybody in the country outside of Delco.
I don't really understand. Our boss, Spike Eskin, has a famous 76ers podcast.
Obviously, our sponsor.
Writes to Ricky Sanchez. It's great. But he seems to be focused on this MVP, and I think it's because he's given up on the thought of ever winning a title.
Well, I mean, listen, it's the trend. I
don't want this consolation prize. I want the actual title. I don't want to focus on individual awards.
No, but you mentioned Joe Biden will invite you to the White House even if you lose, and everything's going to be fine.
But I don't even think we get out of the East to get the Jill Biden invite.
How funny would it be if the Sixers lost in the second round? She's like, 76ers, come on to the White House.
Great run, come on.
You really captivated all 1 million people who are rooting for you.
Would you gain new respect for Jill Biden if this was secretly a Philadelphia conspiracy theory to get the Eagles to the White House?
I would definitely respect that.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think it was.
No, I think it was First Lady got a little caught up in the moment.
Caught up in the excitement.
Caught a little Caitlin Clark fever.
Got a lot of camera time on Sunday. Yep. I think it was Sunday, yeah. I get it.
And said that Iowa should also come to the White House, and basically the entire sports world booed her.
Absolutely.
We booed the First Lady, metaphorically.
It was one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. That being said, I do like Jill Biden. She goes to all the Eagles games, which is, I mean, there's nothing she could do wrong in my book.
Honestly, it's like there are a lot of polarizing things about politicians, but her staking her claim so hard as a Philadelphia sports fan might be the most polarizing. I mean, nobody on either side of the aisle is into that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Bill Clinton did it with the Arkansas Razorbacks.
That's Arkansas.
Obama with the Bulls, and that was
They're
cool.
synonymous with winning. Philly's synonymous with horse dung and greasing the poles.
Huh, that's weird. What? Oh yeah, who's a great politician from Buffalo? Jack Kemp.
Jack Kemp.
Who got destroyed in the presidential election and also got destroyed on the field. So it's consistent for Buffalo.
You want to know what's funny is that when he ran for president, what was that, 92 or something?
Yeah.
It was the first time I learned that he ever was a Bills player.
Yeah.
I didn't know it.
Well, I mean, you hadn't been born for 20 years. The last time he took a snap in Buffalo.
They're like, he was a Bills player. I'm like, wait, the Bills I root for? This guy? No clue. Didn't know.
Do you remember Joe Ferguson?
Not really, but
Yeah, I don't either, but I know the name.
Yeah. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. All right. Palace intrigue. Something's rotten in the state of Massachusetts. Get to that, plus a Lamar Jackson landing spot next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The treadmill is a go. I'm having some issues with the desk, but I walked for 7 glorious minutes, which doesn't bode well for Perloff saying I'm never going to use this treadmill.
The treadmill will never work. How could you possibly enjoy the football games when you're on a treadmill, Maggie?
I was walking at a high speed. I was checking out the levels, but I'm not going to sit on my butt for 12 hours straight.
You are going to sit on your butt for 12 hours straight. Cut to week 7. You're just going to be sitting there. There's going to be nacho cheese dripping down your face. And
They'll be eating the nachos on
balancing the nachos on your stomach as we do on the couch. You'll be like, oh, yeah, there's the treadmill. I forgot about that thing 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
By the time Dak Prescott gets back on the field, there will be shirts hanging on that treadmill. No exercise will be done on it. I guarantee.
Here are Maggie and Perloff.
So glad to have you on this Tuesday. A lot to get to. Congrats to UConn. They win the men's NCAA title last night. And the big question about whether or not they're a blue blood, Perloff, led you to an interesting thought exercise. Go ahead.
Well, I'm all into who's a blue blood and who's not a blue blood. And I apologize if blue blood is some offensive term. That I don't know. I looked up the origin. I have no idea what the origin is. I looked up, and almost all the literature on it is about the CBS show with Tom Selleck. So, blue bloods.
Currently filming in our lobby.
Yes. So it was a very popular show.
It was popular.
What? Was?
It is. Pardon me.
I don't know. I think Blue Bloods, I have no idea, but still be on. So I tweeted out, what are your NFL Blue Bloods? And
great question.
I threw out these teams.
Wait, can I guess?
You can guess, because I instantly regret my list. So go ahead. Give me yours.
All right. See if mine lines up with yours at all.
Yes.
The Packers?
Yes. Check.
I like it. The Bears?
Check.
Okay. The New York Giants?
Check.
Okay. Pittsburgh Steelers?
Check.
The Dallas Cowboys?
Check.
The Las Vegas Raiders, but not when they were in Las Vegas?
Check.
And the New England Patriots?
Okay.
No check for the Patriots?
I did not put on the Patriots.
Was I close to your list?
That was the only one that I didn't put on. I put 6. I didn't have a 7th. Everyone is killing me for the Raiders and said that the current regime of the Raiders is knocking them out of blue blood status. The one that I got the most complaint about was the Patriots. The second most was, why not the 49ers?
I had the 49ers also.
Yeah, 49ers.
But here's the thing. The 49ers were not good before Bill Walsh. They were a laughingstock.
Yeah.
They had a real downtime. And the Patriots were nothing until Bill Belichick. I mean, I know they made 2 Super Bowls, but they had not won a title.
I would say Parcells maybe getting there, kind of legitimize.
Wait, which one did Parcells get there? I mean, they got destroyed. I mean, they lost to Green Bay, and they got obviously
obliterated by the 85 Bears, of course.
So, I just don't think the Patriots certainly weren't a blue blood until Belichick. So it comes back to our UConn debate. Can you have 20 years of dominance and make yourself a blue blood?
So I think the Patriots, because I think UConn is a blue blood, I think I have to say the Patriots are a blue blood.
Yeah.
They're the closest that we have to like a dynasty, if you will, I think, because we call them a dynasty, even though I know there's a big gap in titles at one point.
Oh, absolutely.
But so here's another one. This is one I kind of struggled with.
Wait, sorry. We should have put we put the Steelers on there. Sorry. Okay.
Definitely Steelers. Here's one that I kind of struggled with. Now, they have no success. They are, in fact, actually a laughingstock. But the Cleveland Browns.
But they're an old school. Because they won with Otto Graham.
I know, but do they count? I don't think so.
And they left Cleveland. No.
Yeah, okay.
No. I think the other ones that are close are the Dolphins and the Chiefs. The Chiefs, because they were part of that early Super Bowl history.
Right.
And the Dolphins,
Like Dawson and
obviously.
stuff.
Dolphins had Don Shula, so I think you can make a good argument for that. So it kind of depends how you define blue bloods. Obviously, the fact that we put the Packers and the Bears haven't won that much, have they?
They only got the one in 85. I'd almost take the Bears out.
Yeah, you could make a good argument.
I mean, the Lions have been around for a really long time.
Yeah, but they're the least successful franchise there is. So
the Raiders is interesting that it would get pushback. I feel like, of course, the Raiders would be in there. They're one of the teams that built the league. Stu, you're a Raider fan. Do they belong?
They're kind of like Indiana, I guess. They haven't won in like 40 years. Right. So, I mean, they did win the 3 in the 70s and 80s, but since then it's been kind of nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough.
Did I secretly not put in the Patriots, and then when people tweeted me, said, "Oh, what about Deflategate and Spygate?" just to see what they would say. Maybe they did not like that.
Way to hang on to it.
Yeah, if you bring out Spygate, you're in trouble. Here's a couple other. The Broncos. Someone tweeted.
I
Dougie
thought about that.
Tweeted. Borderline. The Eagles, even I will admit, new.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Washington's an interesting one because they have a lot of history, but it's been so bad the last 20 years that I think they've knocked themselves out.
Well, and also, I mean, they even have history going back. Weren't they the last team to integrate in the NFL? I mean, there were some other things that going on.
Yeah. The funny thing about the Patriots, too, I said to you, can an AFL team become a blue blood? Jets really, they'll always be a little brother to the Giants.
Yeah. Definitely.
Unfortunately. I mean, I know they might get Aaron Rodgers or might not, but
yeah. If they don't get Rodgers at this point, what a massive waste of time it all was for us. Thank you. But let's pause on the Pats for a second, though, because while we can, argue whether or not they're a blue blood, there is like a palace intrigue that exists with the Patriots, I think, because of Belichick, of what Belichick and Brady did, and then Robert Kraft. And there's just, because of the amount of secrecy that happens around this team, this sort of Patriot way, this fortress that appears to be around the team, when any time that gets tripped up or crumbles a little bit or falls, I find it fascinating. And that's what's happening now with Tom Curran, who's as plugged in as anybody in New England, saying that Bill Belichick was really pissed off that Mac Jones throughout last year, went to his former Alabama coaches to ask for help with the offense. Like, first of all, Bill, how could you be pissed about that? Your offense stunk. And part of the reason they stunk is because of you. You didn't put an offensive coordinator in who was competent at all. You a defensive coordinator and Joe Judge, who was a former special teams guy and a failed coach of the Giants. And you've drafted poorly on the offensive side of the ball. Bill, with defense, Perloff, you'll never be able to say a word. His defenses are always amazing. But offensively, they have not hit on wide receivers. And their offensive philosophy last year didn't exist.
Yeah, but it was also bad the year before. They were not a good offense with Bill O'Brien at the end, were they?
Bill O'Brien. Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, they
had a rookie quarterback, so I think you were grading a little on a curve.
So I'm sorry. I should have read the details. Mac Jones I thought he was calling Bill O'Brien. He was calling somebody else.
Well, down the Alabama coaches where Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator, right?
Right. So was he not calling Bill O'Brien? Was he calling who he had at Alabama?
Yeah. It just said he was calling the coaches at Alabama. I don't know if we ever got a specific. Got it.
I had forgotten that Bill O'Brien had been out of the building until now. So he has no excuses if Bill O'Brien's back.
I know, but there was always, remember, Albert Breer had the report that Bill Belichick was hesitant to bring Bill O'Brien back.
Because he thought he'd be one and done.
He thought he'd be one and done, and then now all of a sudden he's being welcomed back. I think there were some whispers that Kraft might have had something to do with that. First of all, Kraft has always loved Bill O'Brien, and the fact that Belichick may have been stubborn about who he wanted to run the offense.
Tell you right now, Alabama fans are thrilled about this because O'Brien.
Get O'Brien.
I know Bryce Young had big numbers, but there was definitely something missing the last couple of years at Alabama. So here's the thing about the Patriots.
Yeah,
I just think now that Tom is gone, it doesn't even matter. You're not going to dress up this pig. I think they're an average team who's going to be right around 500 for the foreseeable future. Is anything, whether they keep Mac Jones or go Bailey Zappi, unless they bring in Lamar Jackson, isn't the result going to be almost the same thing?
So there was another report on top of the Tom Curran report.
Right.
And that was Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, who said that the Patriots have been shopping Mac Jones.
Right.
a little surprising when you take a guy 2 years ago in the first round. But now they're shopping Mac Jones, and the teams were the Raiders, which is interesting now they signed Brian Hoyer to a 2-year deal. I don't know if that means anything. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Commanders, and I believe that was it.
There are 4, right? Okay.
What was the 4th team?
I can't remember.
I'll get it.
Yeah, you get that. Here's the problem. Mac Jones, okay, he took a major step back from year 1 to year 2, probably because of the coaching. I agree with you. But if you're a team, are you going to take that risk? Are you going to give up something good for Mac Jones?
Well, here's the thing. Is Mac Jones a competent quarterback that I can get basically like on the cheap?
Right, 5th round pick.
5th round pick, maybe a 4th, but okay. And he's still on the rookie deal. The 4th team was the Texans.
Yeah,
Raiders, Texans, Buccaneers, Commanders. Now, the Texans makes it interesting because they hold the 2nd overall pick. So, would they go with Mac Jones as opposed to drafting somebody there?
And go for another position.
Yeah, and that, or trade out of that pick.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of former Patriots in Houston.
Of course.
So
including their GM.
Yeah, I don't know. Nick Caserio, did he draft Mac Jones? I don't think so. I think he was already gone. But anyway, regardless, they have a Patriots mindset and they obviously communicate. But where are the Texans going with Mac Jones? I'm sorry, I just don't know.
Well,
now, what
here's
about
the thing, though. Yeah. Mac Jones, where are the Texans going with Mac Jones? Great question. I don't know. Can you compete in the AFC South, though, with Mac Jones? You might be able to. No. But not against Trevor Lawrence. Houston. But here's the thing. If you really don't like one of these quarterbacks, though, Mac Jones can just be your Band-Aid to get you to, you have him on a cheap rookie deal for a couple of years. And meanwhile, you've traded out of that number 2 pick. And maybe you're getting a 1st rounder for next year or something like that. You probably would.
Right, but why not just go with Davis Mills? What's the difference?
Could, but...
Well, let me ask you about one team that we haven't mentioned.
What's that?
The 49ers reportedly love Mac Jones, so go ahead, just trade Trey Lance, your problem in San Francisco, for Mac Jones. So Trey Lance, everyone's rumoring is on the trade block and might get traded during the draft, former number 3 overall pick. Why not just do that?
Do we know that Trey Lance is any good?
But we have no idea. We know Mac Jones threw 14 touchdowns and 11 picks last year.
Right.
We know that.
And if he goes to San Francisco, all of a sudden they're going to go to the NFC Championship game.
But we also know Trey Lance could have a huge jump in his career.
Because
he can run like crazy, where Mac Jones is. Yeah, I mean, even if is Mac Jones better than Brock Purdy?
Well, I'd ask you this. Do we think there's a playoff mandate in New England? Because Peter King had his Football Morning in America column, obviously, on Monday, and he had some interesting things about the Patriots. Basically, the team, he said, is 25-26 since Tom Brady left, 0 playoff wins. And listening to Robert Kraft talk like Belichick, again, this is Peter King writing, we care about performance, not individual records. I'm starting to wonder what happens to Belichick, who turns 71 in 2 weeks, if the Patriots sink to the bottom of the AFC East.
Which odds are they? I mean, Las Vegas odds right now, they're a distant 4th.
Say the Patriots go 7-10. Again, this is Peter. Each of the next 2 years, and Belichick has 5 wins from passing Don Shula. What would Robert Kraft do? Again, this is kind of like in the backdrop of Belichick getting this all-time record. But say Belichick is on the hot seat, as Ben Volen from the Boston Globe told us. Is he really going to go into a year on the hot seat with Trey Lance? That doesn't seem like it right to me.
No.
Would he go in with Lamar Jackson? Now, there you might have something.
Yeah. No, I don't. But then again, I think it's most likely that he'll go in with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. And the reason I say it's most likely is because Bill Belichick is so defiant that I think people saying you're not going to win with these guys, he's going to try to win with these guys just to prove a point.
Yeah.
I mean, what has been really, Mac Jones was a swing. Like, they have not had a quarterback strategy, so they took a swing at Mac Jones. Right. Doesn't look like it's working, so now they find themselves a distant 4th in the AFC East odds.
And kind of in no man's land, though,
totally,
as well.
They're in limbo.
Right, so do you stay with Mac Jones? Now, the thing is about Belichick, I'm surprised he would take it that personally that Mac Jones talked to the Alabama coaches. First of all, best friends with Saban, Bill Belichick, so it's not like he's letting the company secrets. He didn't call Pete Carroll and ask for advice, or he wasn't on the phone with, Kyle Shanahan.
Well, I mean, this is a coach who let Tom Brady walk out when he still had 3 good years left out of something personal. So it does get personal, it looks like.
Well, I don't know. I know all the Alex Guerrero stuff, but I think Belichick really thought that Brady was probably about to fall off a cliff, right?
Well, if he did, he miscalculated.
Yeah, no, he definitely did.
I think too that the credit. I think that they had started to grade on each other. Yeah, and then 2019 was a brutal season. I think Brady had the same problem in New England that Mac Jones is having. There's no talent there at all. So, I mean, look at I can't believe that they're going into this season without wide receiver core. And now that DeAndre Hopkins might get cut, and then you read that they don't even want to spend on him. So I'm not sure what's happening here. I think I'm going to win my bet that Bill Belichick will retire without. What was the bet exactly?
The bet was, you bet me that Bill Belichick will not make it to the playoffs again before he retires.
Now, did I say in New England?
I don't think you did.
Can I have that caveat?
No. No, you may not.
So if he goes down, where is he going to go? Did Peter say if he wasn't a Patriot coach and he wanted to break the record, where he might go?
He didn't have any landing spots.
Because Houston.
But you know what would be like the full circle? Go back to the Browns. But I think that ended not great.
Well, also, right, I think it was the different Browns. I don't think
that's
that
true.
had nothing to do with this organization.
Although this organization isn't exactly gangbusters. But if he did want to go full circle.
Right. So I would think Houston be a landing spot because Casario's down there, but they love D'Amico Ryans, and I don't think they're going to fire him in a couple of years.
I don't listen.
They've had a bad look with firing coaches way too quickly.
Terrible, but everything about the Houston Texans had a terrible look. We were talking to our Uber driver when we were in Houston, and they're like, Texans. It was like no buzz.
How about this? How about Arizona Cardinals?
Why would Bill go there? They might have the least amount of talent on their roster than any team in the NFL.
If you go 2 years of 7-10, he's not going to have his choice of places. He's 73 years old. That's
he's the best coach of all time.
That is the kind of place. Yeah, but why would
he will be the winningest coach of all time.
So, well, if he gets to Arizona, but I don't think he's going to have his choice of jobs. First of all, you're going to have something that's vacant, which is
seven teams a year,
all bad. So where do you go to retire? Where did Emmitt Smith go after as a Cowboy? The Cardinals. It's going to be some random team like that.
Belichick with Kyler Murray. You think that's going to work?
No, I mean, Kyler Murray, this is 2 years from now. He'll be gone from there.
Where will he be? Let's keep doing it.
So he's got 3 years. Yeah, his contract will be coming to an end, and he'll be cut, I think. Yeah, I don't even think. I mean, he's probably not going to play much this year. That's not going well.
Also, I don't think he should. The problem is that if you're going to tank, you're going to have these quarterbacks at the top of the draft. And what happens if the Arizona Cardinals end up with the number 1 pick?
Oh, they're
definitely taking Caleb Williams.
Rushing to the podium to take Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and then you just really take a hit on Kyler Murray.
The Lance Zierlein, my buddy at NFL.com, had a spicy mock draft today. He had Anthony Richardson falling to 14 to the New England Patriots, which that's ridiculous.
Wow,
there's no way that's going to happen, I don't think. But what about the Patriots trading up a little bit and getting a rookie? That's an interesting thing. Is that too much with Mac Jones in the house?
I think so, because you have Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. So you're going to throw another young guy in the mix?
Well, what
does that do?
I think you would have to trade Mac Jones to do that.
I mean, listen, do you think the Baltimore Ravens want Mac Jones in return for a Lamar Jackson trade? That's a tough sell to the fan base.
I don't think
sorry, we had the unanimous MVP, and now here's Mac Jones.
No, I don't think they would do that. I mean, Mac Jones had a really bad season, and his rookie season was promising, but it wasn't complete. I looked at his.
But he had no offensive coordinator. That has to count for something.
Right, but you're just guessing that he's going to be good based on. I mean, he had no offensive coordinator, but Bailey Zappi looked way better. Bailey Zappi completed 71% of his passes.
I'm sorry, I can't tell them apart.
Well,
the same guy.
I don't even know if they actually are. I think Bailey Zappi actually was Mac Wilson by the end of the season. If I show you right now a picture of Bailey Zappi, I know this doesn't work on radio, and Mac Wilson, you will not know which one is
Wilson, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson mashup.
Who is that?
I think that's Zappi. Is it? Is it Mac Jones? It's Zappi.
It's Zappi. But
yeah, they look exactly alike.
They have the same exact haircut.
Like a police sketch artist. It'd be the
same forehead. It is uncanny how much they look like. So,
like, who robbed the bank? Like, I don't know
if I said it on air, but I think they were interchanging the two of them in the same uniforms last year to confuse opponents.
Confuse opponents, but like they have the same game.
They have the same exact game. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see. I think New England is in some real trouble, and then I will win my bet. Or they'll go 13-4 somehow.
Nebby Z's in the chat. Just you got to go to Arizona because that's the place where old people go.
That was kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, then you might as well go to Miami. Old people go to Miami.
Yeah, but Mike McDaniel looks like he's promising.
And when they get Tom Brady, that'd be awkward.
Yeah. How about the Raiders, by the way?
People also go to Las Vegas to retire.
And Dave Ziegler is a Patriots guy. They'd have to fire Bill's protege, Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, but all of Belichick's proteges stink.
Yeah.
As head coaches, most of them.
Just demote him to OC. It'll be a perfect marriage.
Yeah, right. Bill there, Josh to OC.
Yeah.
Then you find they have something cooking.
Bring in Matt Patricia.
Danny Amendola's already there as an assistant coach now.
Yeah, they hired Danny Amendola. How do you feel about that, Stu?
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Devontae Adams, Danny Amendola. Yeah.
Wait, they hired him to coach.
Wide receiver coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure that he's not trying out on the
They
field.
didn't sign him.
Okay. I mean, he's not that old. He's probably what? He's one of those guys who feels old.
No, he was part of the Brady shirtless on the beach football game.
37.
Young. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Want to get involved with the chat? It's a fun time. YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio. Okay, we've got a lot more to get to today because we're dilly-dallying, talking about the Patriots. We got to get to some more draft matters as we are just about 3 weeks away, 3 weeks on Thursday from the NFL Draft. Perloff and I will be there in Kansas City. Boots on the ground, bringing you all the latest. What's going on with the top of the draft? We'll give you all the details next. Don't move. More Maggie and Perloff in just moments.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. So last night was significant for several reasons. UConn winning their 5th title. Danny Hurley winning his first. Sorry, Dan Hurley.
He rebranded.
Yeah, Andy Katz got really mad at me. I could tell when I called him Danny Hurley. Anyway, was it Bob Hurley too? By the way, great cameos by Bobby Hurley on the side last night. And,
getting emotional.
And senior, that was pretty cool. So it is the last time we will ever hear Jim Nance's voice. Is this correct, Maggie?
Thankfully, no. Thankfully, no.
I thought the way they framed it, it's like he was crawling off into retirement. I mean, it's going to be a while, though. What, 2 years before we hear him again? Oh, no. He's actually on air right now calling a major event. What? Was it overblown, the goodbye? I was into it. I was totally into it. But he is still going to be the premier voice in sports.
Well, as you noted to me, not only is he going to be calling the Masters this weekend, in a couple days, but he's also calling the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
But here was the goodbye from Nance, as eloquent as ever.
One thing I learned through all of this is everybody has a dream, and everybody has a story to tell. Just try to find that story. Be kind.
You told it better than most, let me tell you.
Can I tell you one other thing? I mean this, not to try to play off fellow friends, but to you, everybody in the college game, on CBS Family, my family, all the viewers, thank you for being my friend.
Nance.
Wow.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, Raph tried to get in there for a little steal
Bill,
spotlight.
Get out of there.
Come on.
Get out of there,
Come on,
Bill.
Raph. But
it's not your moment.
I mean, that was good. It was not as good as the line I tried to give to Kevin Kugler last week.
Don't keep trying to sell this line.
If Jim Nance had just said, to everyone out there, I just want to say, UConn do it too.
It was so bad.
Kind of like Adam Sandler. It's a little Bobby Boucher. UConn do it. That would be great. Okay. You can do anything. You can do anything you want. That he celebrated because he wanted to celebrate the Huskies as well.
You can't make your final farewell be like a pun on UConn.
Okay, but if Florida Atlantic had won it, and he said, "Who won? Who? Is there an owl in the house?" And then sign off, that would have been iconic.
Okay, so the worst thing that could have possibly happened about your "Who is there an owl in the house" was Howie Deneroff, who is one of the heads of sports for Westwood One, was like, "Ooh, I like that." I was like, "Oh, no. Don't feed it. Don't feed it." Perloff has been waiting to drop these gems all over the place.
Well, all right. Actually, so did Kevin go with there's a butler in the house?
The butler did it.
The butler did it.
Yeah, with the Lamont Butler buzzer beater.
Right. That worked.
Yeah.
That worked. What
Kevin nails it.
Can we hear last night again? Because last night was a tricky one. It was hard to do UConn and put it into history, I think. I don't know if we have that ready.
Yeah, I mean, and also the game was in the balance, had been, did not hang in the balance basically from 5 minutes on. So let's hear it.
Rebound to Hurley for UConn, and how fitting. The coach's son is going to dribble out his dad's championship. 76-59. Every dog has his day, and this day belongs to the Huskies.
Yeah.
UConn has its 5th national national championship in school history.
Nailed it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I had no idea that there was a Hurley on the team, by the way. Did you guys all know that?
I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, and he was the little guy was so happy to be out there with big floppy hair. By the way,
that's a cool moment.
Can I just say, if I was ever in that position with 30 seconds left, I'm not dribbling out.
Shoot.
I'm getting in the scorebook to having at least taken a shot in the NCAA tournament. You have one chance, one shining moment. You're not taking a shot in that situation?
You might get punched in the face if you took a shot in that moment. I mean, maybe worth it. But so I noticed that as there was still about, this is so nerdy of me, but forgive me for a moment. There was still like 25 or 30 seconds left on the clock, and the score bug went final.
Oh, it did?
Yes. And I was like, ooh, they better hope that whoever this is, that was like, oh, it's Hurley's kid. They better hope that he's a coach trying to bank in a 3 or something.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they'd already put the final button.
As a former high school bench warmer,
yeah,
I have to tell you, you didn't care if you were blown out or you were blowing out. You wanted to get in that game. You were totally fine with a 30-point loss.
Well, 2 things you have to do if you get in as a bench warmer. Either you have to attempt a shot or you have to foul somebody, because like that's the way you get into the box score.
Yeah. One time we were down by 30 against the best team in the area, and they had a kid who was going to D1 somewhere, and they hadn't pulled out their starters yet. So I was a bench warmer. They threw me in there. This kid dunked on my head on the first play out there.
In high school?
In high school. Yeah, I was not a great player. And I was like, oh, man, why'd you put me in this one, coach?
All of a sudden you got yammed on by some kid who's going to Michigan.
But wait, did somebody take a shot last night? There was one shot by a bench warmer. I think it was last night. Someone threw one up. And I was so happy for him.
Going up backwards. Speaking of Michigan, let's go to the phones. 855-2124-CBS. Jack's calling from Michigan. What's up, Jack?
Hey, I've got a question about the game from last night.
You got it.
I've been watching college basketball for about 60 years, and I've never seen anything like this, where a guy went in for a slam dunk, hit the back of the rim, goes to the backcourt, gets picked up, no over and back.
I was obsessed with that play. Did you ever look up the rule?
No.
Well, we'll do that for you, Jack, and thank you for the call. That was the most ridiculous ricochet, I guess. It almost like flew backwards. He bricked the dunk so hard. He was going in for this one-handed, like tomahawk kind of LeBron James style dunk. And he bricked it so hard that the ball flew back to the other side of the court.
Yeah, it was definitely the most exciting play of the game.
It wouldn't count as an over and back, though, would it? If it,
I guess
it counts as a
hit
shot.
The rim.
Yeah.
I guess it counts as a rebound. I think it was the most exciting. There wasn't a single dunk in the game, was there?
I don't think so.
At least it wasn't until maybe at the end there was one. But that entire game was played below the rim except for that one moment. It was a great move. It was Hawkins, right? I think, who missed the dunk. That was awesome. It was really cool.
He's a projected first-round NBA draft pick, which is funny because you'd think the guy who's going to go in the first round of the NBA draft might be the biggest star, but I think if we're going to rank the stars from last night, I think Dan Hurley was probably 1. I think Nance was probably 2.
Ooh, I didn't know Nance was in there because he might have been 1, but okay.
I mean,
he's definitely in the top 2.
The Nance farewell, where he's actually not going anywhere because he's going to be calling the Masters in the Super Bowl soon. And then 3 was probably actually Sonogo.
Yep. He's got a lot of attention. And his story is great.
So. Yeah.
Parents watching at home on the internet. Yeah, I think a lot of the UConn wing players their games were slightly interchangeable.
Yeah.
So I think they had different guys would step up in different games. San Diego State certainly did not have star power. They played as a team, which I give them credit for. I will tell you,
Damian Trammell had been a standout in the earlier rounds, but I agree with you.
It was 56-50 for a moment, and my blood pressure finally raised above a normal level. I was so excited when the game got close. It would have been so much more fun if San Diego State could have kept that run going.
Yeah, but then UConn just put their foot back right on the gas and ran away with it. The amount of missed shot, I mean, it was a tough watch.
It was Brick City, especially from San Diego State, but UConn also missed a lot of easy shots. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It reminds me a little bit of the 2 Butler championship games.
Yeah. Well, the first one was close.
But it was very low scoring.
Yeah.
I think it was in the low 50s.
It was like a 3/4 quarter, basically like a half court shot.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward missed that shot at the end. But I think the score, and I got to double check this, was something like 52-51. And the next one wasn't that the...
That was UConn.
UConn was 51-43 or something ridiculous.
Ackerman,
you're a human encyclopedia.
I don't remember the exact score, but it was low scoring.
Yeah.
Recall.
I will look those up.
Confirmed. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Yes.
So in the one against Duke, they lost by 2, 61-59.
Okay.
And then the Connecticut one, they lost 53-41.
Oh, hearing that
41
score.
points.
Ouch.
The Duke Butler game was a lot of fun because Gordon Hayward was a future NBA star. Yeah. There was a lot going on in that game. That UConn Butler game was a bit of a low moment.
Honestly, though, even then, I didn't know Brad Stevens was going to go to the Celtics.
No.
I mean, that was pretty surprising. But no, the fact that Butler got back and did it again was incredible to get back to the finals.
Yes.
But then, what was it, 41, 49 points? Yikes.
Well, maybe
41.
San Diego State will follow up and be the current Butler.
That'd be interesting.
But then again, then Stevens left, and now where's Butler? Are they good?
No. I don't think so.
Man, we have a lot of tangents today.
It's been that kind of day.
Yeah.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, got some new intel on what's going to be happening at the top of the draft. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Don't move. More Maggie and Perloff. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff with you on CBS Sports Radio after this update with Rich Ackerman.
Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility and great pay benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today. Bundle today at progressive.com. The NBA was off last night because the NCAA championship. Full slate of games tonight with 4 left. The Bucks have a 2-game lead over the Celtics in the East. They're in Washington while the Celtics take on the Sixers in Philadelphia. Boston head coach Joe Mazzulla more concerned on going into the playoffs on a high note rather than the number 1 seed overall.
There's nothing we can do about it. A lot of it's out of our control. What we can control is playing the way we played. The last 11 games we're 8-3, number 1 in both offense and defense, and so we're doing a lot of good things. We just have to keep that going.
As for the Bucks-Wizards game tonight in Washington, the Wizards will be without 5 players due to injuries and illness. In the West, the Nuggets 3 games up on the Grizzlies and are in Houston, while Memphis is home to take on Portland. Baseball right now, 1 afternoon game underway, and the Diamondbacks and Padres are scoreless in the top of the second. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, at home, in your car, and of course on your phone and tablet. Find us on your local affiliate, SiriusXM, Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining.
This is Andrew Perloff with an Odyssey Sports Minute. This is Andrew Perloff with an Odyssey Sports Minute, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. This is Andrew Perloff with a CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. There's been an interesting debate about UConn's place in men's college basketball history. The Huskies won their 5th national title. If they're not a blue blood, that probably means no one is ever going to be a blue blood again. Maybe the door is closed to that room. It's Kentucky, Kansas, North Carolina, UCLA, and Duke. But if you're a Husky fan, why do you care? Right now, UConn is a champion. And the way this program is built, they have a great chance to keep winning titles. I'm Andrew Perloff.
One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the armed forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Who did Stu pick as the Navy Federal defensive player? I'm going to say it's probably from last night. Let's see. Sonogo, 10 rebounds. Newton, 10 rebounds.
How about it's NBA and it's somebody...
Austin Reeves.
It's going to be... when you think of who's the best defensive player in the NBA, it's got to be the Stifle Tower, Rudy Gobert.
I mean, what is this, a Lifetime Achievement Award?
I don't even know. Is Rudy Gobert healthy right now? The slightest idea.
Okay. Stu, who'd you pick?
It is from last night's game. It is UConn freshman forward Alex Caravan, and he had 3 blocked shots last night. And for the tournament, he had 6 blocks and 3 steals. And UConn held their opponents to under 65 points in all 6 games.
How about that?
He had 1 block in garbage time. It was kind of whatever. I mean, come on. It's not Rudy Gobert territory.
Well, it could be Rudy Gobert every week. That's why Stu is brilliant at this and stumping us at this.
Well, I didn't have time. Jaren Jackson Jr. is leading the league in blocks by a long stretch, so that'd be a good safe answer. If you need like your baseline answer, who you go with every week, that's the guy.
But a lot of those are block shots by Jaren Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, are kind of fugazi.
Yeah. Little, in what way?
They're stat padded. I think that was the thing. I saw a report on that a few months ago, maybe, that the home games he gets some blocks added to the.
I remember that. I think it was like a Reddit thread. It started where somebody was calling BS on some of the stat keeping at home games versus away, that Jaren Jackson was getting credited with a few more blocks than he should be. I don't know. I think they took a deep dive on that. I don't know what they found, but he's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Wow, that's inside baseball right there.
This broke like late on a Saturday night. It was just like, is this going to be the biggest scandal to ever hit the NBA, like since Tim Donaghy, or not? Because then you'd have to go back. No, I know. But then you'd have to go back and see like who else, are there any other inconsistencies with any other home road splits that are especially, outlandish?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't fudge points, so.
No, you can't fudge points, but if you're betting and you're allowing live betting, then now all of a sudden all these stats become really, really important.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a little like, in NFL, the tackles are unofficial because they don't know how to assign them because 3 guys gang tackle. And how do you.
Love half a sack. That's always my favorite.
Yeah. So the tackle is completely innate. It's totally made up stat. But block, I didn't realize that. And you can bet on blocks fully. I guess you can.
I think you can probably in some states for props, or you can bet on his line or whatever.
I like this. This is fun. I guess he didn't make the cut. He's Caravan, whatever.
How about this? I had no idea that this thing existed. We'll get to the draft in just one moment. But apparently there's a kind of syndrome, like a disease, that everything you eat, your body ferments into alcohol. This was a story from the Today Show did it, where this guy was like, couldn't understand when he was not drinking at all. He would have he'd smell like alcohol. He got like a couple DUIs, even though he hadn't been drinking. He would slur his words a little bit, stuff like that. And he couldn't understand what was going on. His whole family thought he was closet drinking, trying to hide it from them. But it turns out he's got something called auto-brewery syndrome. It's a real thing, and it's produced through fermentation of fungi or bacteria in your gastrointestinal system. And patients who have it present with many of the signs of alcohol intoxication, even though they haven't had anything to drink.
Sorry, I should have laughed. How many people get this?
I don't know. Not many, obviously. But for the few people that do get it, it totally can ruin their life. The guy got fired from multiple jobs. His whole life got turned upside down. Also, think about this. You don't want to, it's like you get none of the pleasure from eating. Eating is one of the joyful things to do in life, and then all of a sudden it backlashes on you where you present and all of a sudden now you're hammered.
Well, yeah, right, but you have to eat to survive.
I know, so there's nothing you can do until you get it obviously diagnosed and treated.
Wow, listen, I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, so I'm going to be on the lookout for Auto Brewery.
Auto Brewery. It come into a city near you. Okay, we do have a little bit of sound just coming in from Caitlin Clark. She did a sit-down with ESPN, and she was asked about Angel Reese and the taunting at the end of the championship game.
I don't think Angel should be criticized at all. No matter which way it goes, she should never be criticized for what she did. I'm just one that competes, and she competed. So I think everybody knew there was going to be a little trash talk in the entire tournament. It's not just me and Angel. So, I don't think she should be criticized. Like I said, LSU deserves it. They played so well. And like I said, I'm a big fan of hers.
Okay, so that's Caitlin Clark, who really...
Bringing the heat, Caitlin.
Yeah, taking the high road, I guess, or however you want to look at it.
Of course, like everybody else in the history of sports does, except for kind of Angel Reese, who...
Well, not everybody takes the high road.
I think most people fake the high road. I think that's the more common road.
I don't think Pat Beverly and Dylan Brooks don't take the high road.
Right, but most champions praise the other team, even though they clearly don't mean it. That's the sports 101.
Well, and it's the right thing to do,
Right, but it's how it's what you do in a press conference. You lie about how good the other team is, right?
Yeah, that's what Tom Brady said he always did, right?
Yeah,
he always lied about the other team. But
Caitlin Clark's good at it. Angel Reese was surprising because she kind of said what most athletes are probably thinking.
So does Caitlin Clark saying that Angel Reese shouldn't be criticized, do you think that matters to the people who are criticizing Angel Reese? If you're one of those people who are out there are some really famous sports pundits who are out in front, calling Angel Reese every name in the book, curse words, stuff like that on social media. The fact that Caitlin Clark has put this out there saying, do not, I'm not critical. I didn't take it personally, and I'm not critical of it. Should that matter to those people?
Well, I mean, we're talking about Dave Portnoy, right?
Keith Olbermann?
Yeah, Keith Olbermann.
Called her a bleeping idiot?
Yeah, he walked that back like 4 times after the onslaught. Portnoy's not, I think Portnoy, he has a different a strategy where he
Danny Cannell was the same. There were more people who criticized her than just Dave Portnoy.
Okay, but there weren't a lot of mainstream pundits. And I think that, I don't think that they would walk it back, because for Portnoy, I think that kind of engagement is a strategy, and he kind of...
Yeah, he's a heel. It's a cartoon character.
Yeah, and he liked arguing about it. Also, too, I think he felt strongly about his argument, and he wasn't alone. I don't think that'll change his opinion, because I think he thought that Angel Reese was trying to show up Caitlin Clark.
You know what I think about it as? This is not exactly apples to oranges, but stay with me. The fact that James Bradbury at the Super Bowl was like, yeah, I tugged on his jersey.
Right.
Like, I said it was holding. Right. So for the people like me who are like, you can't call that at that moment in the Super Bowl, but like, my argument was kind of disarmed because James Bradbury himself for the Eagles said, I held on to, who was it? No, the wide receiver. Whatever.
Yeah.
I held the jersey.
Wasn't it Juju Smith-Schuster?
Was it Juju? Yeah. Okay.
So wait, but you still, I've heard you've maintained that argument.
I still think so, but it watered down my argument quite a bit. So if you are critical of Angel Reese, whether you're Portnoy or anybody, but if you're critical of Angel Reese, now that Caitlin Clark says it wasn't just me and her talking trash, there were a lot of people talking trash in the tournament.
Yeah, no, you're right. It should soften your argument. But the truth is, I don't think people care what any athlete says at a press conference, because we assume they're all lying and just taking the high road.
Well, we care what Angel Reese said at the press conference.
Right, but she did not. She was honest. She was honest.
But
and by the way, and it's refreshingly so.
Be being honest here. Why do you assume she's not?
Because Caitlin Clark has never said anything except the right thing, and I don't know. Does anybody really think like that? No, I mean, I think. I don't think Caitlin Clark was mad. I genuinely don't think she was angry at all.
Right, so she's not lying.
Yeah, she's not lying, but that doesn't mean that you can't still be upset that Angel Reese did that, because it's very public. And I think a lot of people were upset and thought it was sort of taunting.
She also said later on in the interview that she didn't see it and that she has not been on social media since the game ended.
Right. I think most athletes in football, too, when you're the one who's getting taunted, you know the rules. You just got burned. You're going to get taunted. Nobody complains after getting taunted because they just lost. What are you going to say?
Yeah, you have no comeback.
Yeah, you're a competitive athlete, so I think, of course it doesn't bother the athlete, but I think it bothers people on the outside. That's fair to say. If a wide receiver gets taunted, he usually doesn't really say much, because what's he supposed to say? He just got... I'm sorry, if a defensive back gets taunted, if you just got burned for a touchdown, what are you supposed to say?
Yeah,
I think that's what Caitlin felt. She's like, we lost to the better team. She deserved, I think you're right. They should pull back on that take, but they won't. And you know that.
No, well, Portnoy's doing something different. There's a theater thing that's going on here that obviously our audience is smart enough to know what's going on. Even if you like Barstool, you understand what Portnoy is doing. It's pretty easy to see. So that's a little bit different, or Clay Travis or something like that. They're playing characters.
Right.
Let's go to the phones. 855-212-4CBS. I just had to explain the joke to everybody. Nebby's in Pennsylvania. What's up, Nebby?
Hi. I watched, of course, I'm watching on YouTube, and I saw Perloff doing his spot for the Odyssey Sports Minute, and he mentioned Duke as a blue blood. How is Duke a blue blood when they won their first title in 91? UConn wins in 99. They both have 5 titles.
Wait, you can hear the Odyssey Sports Minute?
No, I think it just played nationwide.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. So, Nebby.
The fear in Perloff's.
Nebby, you're right, dude. No, honestly, I just recorded it. There's no way it's playing nationwide.
No,
it hasn't even been cut yet.
Did it just turn around, Stu?
Well, we got to see it in the break when you were doing it on YouTube.
But how did you hear it?
They must not have cut, because we all saw it.
Apparently on the video feed, it was not switched over to muting.
So radio didn't hear it, because it doesn't exist for another hour.
Okay.
But the video feed, it got through.
That's something.
All right, team meeting after this segment. But, Nebby, you have a great point because Duke real success started in 1980, and UConn's not too far after that.
Wait, do you want to amend your sportsman? You got an hour.
No, because I think Duke is still more of a blue blood than UConn. But, Nebby, that's a very valid point because they're kind of newer to the party than the other four, which are Kansas, Kentucky, UCLA, and North Carolina.
The chat can hear our conversations in the break. Uh-oh.
Wait, but our mics weren't on. Oh, I turned it on for the Sports Minute.
Oh, well, that's what it was. All right, we're going to digest that.
Team meeting.
Oh, boy. All right. Back in a minute.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
If you go into a normal porta potty, you have about a 1 in 3 chance of it getting turned over and ending up on Instagram.
Everyone's never said that.
That's my nightmare.
All of a sudden, it's like, how did Samter get the bubonic plague? Like, I don't know. It hasn't been around since the Middle Ages.
We did have a debate about what's worse, but there's nothing worse. The thought of being in a porta potty that turns over.
No, my worst fear is dropping the phone. Just
that's gone.
Sacrifice it. Let it go. It's gone.
No, that is long gone.
And I have the kind of thing where I have my credit cards and stuff like on the back of the phone, and my whole life would be gone. I'm not going in.
What if it was a wedding ring?
Ugh. No, you got to go in for the ring.
No.
I have to.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Congratulations, UConn. The men take home the NCAA championship last night, and it was a walkover, as it has been throughout the tournament. One of the dominant runs, Perloff.
I think there's only one thing we learned last night. You can do anything you want.
And I'm so glad that the season is over, so you cannot make that joke anymore. So we're all getting something out of this. Congrats to UConn and to Coach Dan Hurley. Okay, we got to get to the NFL draft because so here's where things are starting to get interesting. Obviously, we know the Panthers at 1, they're going to take a quarterback. There's no reason why you would ever trade that amount of capital if not. I contend it's still going to be Bryce Young. I've said that from the moment the news dropped when I was wearing the duck suit, that it's going to be Bryce Young. That's who they traded up for. The Vegas odds would tell you differently, but I'm sticking with that. Where we get more interesting now is with pick 2, and then down to 3 and 4. Because Peter King wrote yesterday, Football Morning in America, that there is a world that's not hard to imagine where Houston does not go quarterback with that second pick. Now we found out today that Bill Belichick may have been shopping Mac Jones to Houston along with 3 other teams, the Buccaneers, the Commanders, and also the Raiders. But Houston may not want to go quarterback with that second pick. They could either trade out of that pick or take somebody who they feel is like, one of the clean prospects, because they also are picking at 12. So because they have Cleveland's pick from the Deshaun Watson trade. So is it possible that someone they like might still be at 12, or do they use the draft capital trading down to trade back up to like 5 or 6, Seattle or Detroit, to go back up and get a quarterback if they're still there?
Yeah. I think one of the big issues is if Bryce Young is gone, which I agree with you is the most likely scenario. I don't think they're going to want C.J. Stroud for a couple of reasons. I pointed out they've had a hard time with his agent David Mulugeta at Athletes First because of Deshaun Watson. And not only that, C.J. Stroud to me is more of a point guard style quarterback who's going to distribute to all the talented people around him. There's no talented people around him anywhere.
It's a shame.
There's just nobody. They just
Houston's
traded
in a rebuild.
Yeah, they traded Brandon Cooks. They're particularly thin a wide receiver. I just don't see them building around C.J. Stroud style. For me, I would go with more dynamic kind of Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson there. So I like that. Houston taking somebody else. My buddy, NFL.com's Lance Earline had him taking Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech, the defensive end at number 2. Then they have a lot of draft capital, get one later. Then that becomes interesting. There is a world, too, where, and it's already sort of taking shape, where it's not going 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterback like we thought a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Now it's like last year where we had all these quarterbacks in the first round. Then we woke up and looked at their flaws, and they all moved down. That's where I'm kind of am right now, Maggie. I do not think it's going 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's going maybe 1, 3, 7, 9.
So 3 is the other interesting one because Arizona obviously holds that pick. They have Kyler Murray, even though he's hurt, under contract, and a big contract at that. So they're obviously not going to go quarterback with that pick. Peter King advocating that they wait to trade that on draft night because you got to see what Houston does first, and then you could really kind of hold that pick hostage. You know, here's the thing about quarterbacks and first-round grades and stuff like that. I think that teams talk themselves into, if I'm going to take him at 12, why don't I just take him at 2? Or if he's good enough for me to take him at 18, why wouldn't I take him at 6? That's specifically what the New York Giants did with Daniel Jones. It's like, if I like him enough to give them a top 10 grade or a top, half of the first round, why don't I just take them and make it clean and easy?
Right, but at 3, are you going to trade a first-round pick to go to number 3 to take a quarterback who you're like,
Well, I don't know, but if I'm like Houston, for example, maybe I just take the quarterback there.
Maybe.
Make it clean and easy. Don't have to wait till 12. If I'm going to take him at 12, why don't I just take him at 2?
I hear you, but if it's not Bryce Young, are you really going to take that guy at number 2?
Well, it's a fascinating conversation. And then you go, so who do you think for 3? If there is somebody who is going to trade up to 3 with Arizona and try to get that pick, who do you think it should be?
Well, okay. I mean, obviously, let's talk about the candidates. The Raiders.
Yep.
I don't think
Tennessee is now been rumored.
Tennessee is the one I like because the Raiders are at 7. I think they think a quarterback's going to fall to them anyway, so might as well not trade a first-round pick. It's a pretty flawed class, so the top 4 are all really close. Everyone has gigantic flaws.
Yeah.
Why not just wait till 7 and take the third guy? That's where my head is at.
For the Raiders.
For the Raiders.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to need to trade up to number 3 because is there really that big a difference in C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young? I mean, Bryce Young is a much better quarterback than the 3 of them, but he's so injury prone, so he's flawed. C.J. Stroud is coming from Ohio State, so you don't know, and Anthony Richardson had bad numbers, so
and is a project.
He's might need some time, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're going to give up a lot of draft capital to get up there.
I also wonder, is there any part of Josh McDaniels, who is the head coach of the Raiders, obviously, and I mean, flopped with Tebow. Like, I know they won a playoff game, but I don't think took Tebow as a first rounder.
I don't think he's burned by that though, because at least they got to the playoffs and won a game. That was a miracle.
Yeah, the game they won against the Steelers, which still nobody can believe to this day. But,
yeah, no, it was wild. But imagine if he says, I think Josh McDaniels was more likely to say, like, I did that with Tebow. Imagine what I could do with a mobile quarterback with even more skills.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you. I don't know.
I mean,
there's definitely a reason why Garoppolo's in the building. We understand that.
But I wouldn't. Anthony Richardson is mobile like Tebow. But Anthony Richardson, when he threw it at his pro day, it looked like you were watching a guide on how to throw a football.
Yeah.
Tebow never looked like that.
No, it never looked as.
Anthony Richardson looks great and short.
Fluid, I guess, with
exactly.
Tebow. Yeah.
Perfect word. Anthony Richardson looks like he was born to throw a football. Tebow looked like it was sort of jerky and didn't quite work. So I think you could make a difference there. But wait, I want to backtrack for a second.
Go ahead.
Where do you land on? So you think the Texans, say Bryce Young is gone, do you think they'll take C.J. Stroud and just be simple there? Or do you think it's possible there's a little bit of a fall in the top 10?
I think there's 2 ways this goes for Houston. Either they take a quarterback at 2 and just take them at 2 and make this clean, or I think they're tanking for next year. And I think they don't take a quarterback this year, or they'll take somebody in the 3rd round or the 4th round or something just to do show you a little something. And I think they're going to do the full-on tank because they have so many draft picks too that even if they don't maybe get the number 1 overall pick, depending if that team actually needs a quarterback, then you might be able to make a trade and get up to number 1 or 2 if they like Drake May also.
Yeah.
I think we're going to tell with Houston. If they take the quarterback at 2, they liked him. If not, get ready for another really rough season. Because they were so close to the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, they didn't even tank them because Lovie Smith was mad at the organization. But here's the problem is that division, oh man, it's really hard to tank.
It's going to be hard to tank because I think Tennessee might be tanking too.
Yeah, and I think Who knows? Who's Indy's quarterback right now?
Well, that's another one. Okay, so then Indianapolis is picking at 4. So
if
leaves,
they take a rookie, they're not going to win any games either.
It's going to be tough, but at least they wouldn't be looking for a quarterback the next year, in theory.
Yeah.
If you take a quarterback at 4, you're not going to all of a sudden, unless you're the Arizona Cardinals with Josh Rosen, you're not drafting over that guy in the next year. However, the idea that Indianapolis would be able to trade, again, this is Peter King theorizing, could they trade for Lamar Jackson for the number 4 overall pick straight up?
Yeah.
So not multiple first-round picks, but just the number 4 overall pick, and boom, you get Lamar Jackson.
I would think
that's
so.
attractive.
Well, it's attractive to who? It's attractive to Baltimore.
I think it's attractive to the Colts too.
Oh, I see. I don't think the Colts would do it.
Really?
Yeah,
because of the money.
Yeah, I think it's the money there. They could get a rookie quarterback on a 5-year deal or pay $250 million guaranteed for what they perceive, to quote Peter, as an injury-prone quarterback. That's a big commitment.
Okay.
I think that's too scary for them.
But as you have pointed out, Colts roster is not exactly, bereft of talent.
Yeah.
They actually do have guys on the roster.
Yeah.
Add Lamar Jackson to that mix, you might have something here. Now, I think the Jags are probably winning that division, but you might put a scare into them. With Lamar, you definitely would.
Yeah.
You get Lamar in a dome. That's cool for a guy who likes to run a lot. Take away the elements.
Great. It's the perfect spot. It makes the most sense. In that mock draft I mentioned, Lance had the Ravens picking there and taking C.J. Stroud at 4. It does make the most sense. I just think that money is so scary to every team. Because what if Lamar gets hurt and you're stuck with Sam Ehlinger? I think that's what they're afraid of. So...
Well, you might have to invest a little in the backup quarterback situation, too.
I think you should. I lean... You have to have a plan. If you have Lamar Jackson, hey, how are we going to keep him healthy? How are we going to get weapons around him? We just don't want to repeat what's going on in Baltimore. If I'm the Colts and I'm going to take Lamar Jackson, I'm going to say, Greg Roman was running the offense in Baltimore. Let's not do what he did. Let's try something different. Let's support Lamar in a new way. I get it. If I had to bet, and I read the same thing by Peter, the Colts are scared. They're scared of that commitment.
Well, I think anybody is, but let's see what the quarterback salaries look like after Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts sign contracts, because we balk now, but we always do this. When the first athlete made $1 million, we were probably like, and then it goes on and on and on. I think, remember when Reggie Jackson, what was his first check, and people couldn't get over it? Now, this was his free agency in 1977, but still, every time we're always so shocked by these numbers, but ultimately, you point this out all the time, ultimately everyone catches up.
Well, right, except that I think the Deshaun Watson jump was so extreme.
It was extreme.
Usually it goes up by 3%, 4%, 5%. That was a gigantic jump for a player who shouldn't have been at the top, right?
No. Absolutely.
So it was a very confusing situation that makes the whole... I think the Watson contract screwed it all up. Otherwise, we probably have more rhyme and reason here.
Yeah, blame the Browns.
But I said that because Bryce Harper signed this deal, and everyone's like, oh, my God, this is a gigantic deal. He was 14th in the league in average salary. If you could keep the average salary reasonable and sign the guy for 10 years, you're in good shape. But Lamar doesn't want that.
No, but then maybe he meets you in the middle with a shorter-term deal with a high average annual value. So maybe you can get a deal done. There might also be a part of this where Lamar, I don't know how personal it's gotten with the Ravens at this point, but he might just want to sign with someone else. I'm not saying he'll take a haircut or a discount or anything like that, but he might just want to get out of there.
I totally agree.
That's a shame. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's hit the phones. Dan is in Michigan's got an idea for his Detroit Lions. What's up, Dan? Dano. Danny.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
So I was just curious on what you guys thought, but I think the Lions are doing a bunch of great things in the offseason. If you think that getting Stroud or one of those guys, if it's there at 6, should they do it or not? I feel like I like Goff, and I think the pieces they have right now, if they can continue building off last year, is it necessary to really get a quarterback that's going to be, I guess you could sit for a couple of years and then come in, but don't know if it's really worth it to get a quarterback or maybe another piece. Just wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
Well, Dan, I think Maggie and I have disagreed a little bit on this. Yeah. I think the pieces are so good there that you do not have to pay beyond Jared Goff. You can win with Jared Goff. You're sitting that high in the draft. You have a chance to get a defensive star to pair with Aiden Hutchinson. At some point, if you're going to win a title there, you're going to need some defense. And the defense has been the problem. I would just jump in on defense and roll with Goff.
Listen, they did it last year. So, they could have taken a quarterback last year, and they decided to go with Hutchinson at 2.
Yeah.
And look at what the great rookie season that he had.
Absolutely. And they ended up having a top 5 offense and a bottom defense.
Yeah.
Bottom 2 defense, which improved at the end of the year, but they need some help. So can you imagine Hutchinson and Will Anderson if you fell to them? Or I know he's complicated. You put Jalen Carter in the middle of that line. There's a lot of really juicy prospects for the Lions. By the way, how can you not be into the Lions right now?
I think the Lions are going to be like the darling team of the NFL.
I think the NFL preseason is going to be a coronation of the Lions, which would make me nervous if I was a Lions fan.
Yeah, all that hype is usually not a great thing, but they're not doing Hard Knocks this year, so you're not going to get that. But with Aaron Rodgers exiting the NFC North, this is also, I think, what's adding to the Lions hype.
Yeah.
And they're easy to root for.
And they won 8 of their last 10 games.
Yeah.
And Jameson Williams is coming back. Yeah, it's good.
You mentioned Jalen Carter, just quickly on him. So he's only going to be working out for the top 10 teams in the draft. Obviously, Carter is defensive lineman from Georgia who, had some legal issues around the fatal car crash after the University of Georgia won their second national title. So now he's gotten past the legal stuff. He's got probation. He's got a fine. He's got some community service. Obviously, no jail time. But not only did he have those issues and questions to be answered by teams, but he also had a really bad pro day, which is rare.
Yeah, he ran out of steam.
Yeah, which is
Give him to my Eagles a 10. He's a defensive tackle. You don't need to run a marathon, dude.
Well, I mean,
stuff the run. I'm good.
You got to be out there for a lot of snaps. The Eagles kind of cycle them through.
The defensive tackles are pretty chubby dudes. I'm not worried.
I don't see him as chubby, but yeah.
Well, just the fact that he ran out of steam. Yeah, I don't think defensive tackle is a fitness-oriented position, but I don't know.
Those guys are sneaky athletic. 855-212-4CBS, not sneaky. 855-212-4227. Before we turned our attention to football, we talked a lot about UConn. Perloff got a little obsessed with whether or not UConn is indeed a blue blood program. Michael is in Minneapolis, has got a thought on this. What's up, Michael?
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I watch you guys quite a bit, and I was kind of bummed when I didn't find you on CBS Sports Network a while ago, but fortunately I found you on YouTube.
Great.
Anyhow, I want to just address Mr. Perloff's comment about UConn. I am a UConn grad. I've been to 2 of the Final Fours. The best one was when we beat Duke. But in terms of UConn's history and being a blue blood, since between 19, I think it was 51 and 67, we went to the NCAA tournament 11 times. In 50, I think it was 55 and 56, we made it all the way to a regional semifinal. And then I think in 62, 63, we actually made it to within 1 game of the Final Four. We made it to the regional final. So there is a lot of history there. There is a lot of rich history with UConn basketball. And so, yes, I do believe we're a blue blood. And, 5 championships in, 24 years, I'll take that any time.
Wait.
But, again, I love you listening.
Hey, Michael, what changed? Why did UConn go from just another Big East team to sort of a dominant team? Is it just Calhoun was a good coach, or is there more to it?
Calhoun brought us to prominence. We made the NIT with Cliff Robinson. Cliff Robinson was one of the key people who changed this team.
Yeah.
I think it was in 87 or 88. And then Chris Smith came in and for the 90 team, and they had a gentleman from Israel named the Dov Hennefeld on their team in 1990 that Christian Leitner beat us with a last-second shot to keep us out of the Final Four. And that got us rolling. And then, again, Ray Allen came in, and we just went on from there. And, of course, 99 was the tremendous year. And it was, again, the best sporting event I've ever been to was going to St. Petersburg and seeing us beat Ohio State and beat Duke. But so that's kind of, I just wanted to give you that input.
Cool.
And, again, I love listening to you guys and watching you. In fact,
thanks,
I'm watching
Michael.
you all right now.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you for finding us, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. The show went fully digital.
And by the way, if you're lucky, you might accidentally hear us talking during the break.
Uh-oh. It's funny. The Leitner buzzer. It was a buzzer beater over UConn. Gets like not nearly the amount of run that his buzzer beater over Kentucky gets that he hit at the Spectrum.
Was that
I'm watching it right now. Leitner buzzer beater to be, I'm sorry for Michael not to bring up bad memories here, against UConn 1990, but they don't play this one as much as they did, obviously, the Kentucky one.
So is that the game where he stepped on the guy?
This was 2 years before obviously, because the Kentucky one was in 92.
And I think that's the game where he stepped on somebody, isn't it?
Is that the one where he stepped on somebody?
Well, I think he stepped on a UConn player.
And that's where he became, like, really hated. That started, like, his villain term.
I could be wrong.
I don't remember who he stepped on, but that definitely started his...
oh, no, later.
Everybody Hates Christian Leitner was the name of the documentary.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Michael had great points, but it's funny. I remember when I was a kid, the Big East had Syracuse. That was the power. And Georgetown, and then Villanova. UConn was not in the picture. That's why I think, because it's my age, like as a kid, Georgetown was everything, and Syracuse was a gigantic deal. It was not UConn. So, but then again, like, where are Syracuse and Georgetown now?
I know. Well, I mean, maybe Georgetown now with Ed Cooley, maybe they start to turn things around. I mean, it was a good story to get Patrick Ewing as the coach, but obviously that wasn't going to happen. And now Syracuse turns the page with Adrian Autry.
I totally screwed up. It was Kentucky's Aminu Timberlake who he stepped on.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 92?
I think it was, yes. I think it was the game, wasn't it? Was it the game where he hit the game winner?
So the...
Yeah, 92. Yep.
So take that. I mean, those are Michael coming in with some stats. I think UConn is a blue blood. I think they've earned it.
I think we just have very different definitions of blue blood. I don't think I take UConn seriously as a program. It's an incredible achievement, but I'm defining blue blood just as sort of like a old school history thing. John Wooden comes to mind, and I don't think you're thinking about those kind of guys.
No, I'm not. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. All right, we got a lot more to do here, including interesting story that's about to take over the sports world. We're always one step ahead here on Maggie and Perloff. We'll get that to you in just a moment. Don't move. More show in just moments.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Maggie, I have an important question. When does the baseball season start? I've enjoyed spring training. It's been great.
Good try. We're not letting you get away with that. These all count, and the Phillies haven't won any of them.
Yeah, 0-4. It's one of the worst starts for a World Series participant in history. It is not a good sign. I can't believe it's a 162-game schedule, and there's already stats that prove we are not going to make the playoffs. We beat the Phillies. But listen,
It's glorious.
I mean, are you really want to brag after what happened in the Mets and Brewers yesterday?
I do not, because it's just like the Mets, where somebody hitting their first ever home run as in the major leagues hits a grand slam off the Mets. Yeah. That's something that would happen to that franchise.
They're playing the Brewers. Now, the funny thing about that is the embarrassed team after that game was also the Brewers, because
they won 10-0.
They are getting a lot of flack because they had a flyover with a B-1 bomber fly over the stadium, which is really cool, right?
Wow.
Flyovers are awesome to see. Except that the roof was closed at Miller Park. So what the heck? How can you have a flyover with a closed roof in Milwaukee? What is going on here?
My only thought could be they already paid for it. So it's like, hey, the roof's going to be closed. Like, do you want to do the flyover day? It's like, I don't know. Am I going to get my deposit back? Like, no. All right, then let's go.
What?
I don't know how much a flyover costs. I can't imagine they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart.
So I don't even know how safe this is. They set off fireworks indoors. I guess they must have tested that, I hope. And then they had a fighter jet fly over the closed roof. So at least you got the noise. But that's insane. What's the point of a flyover without seeing I saw a flyover at the NFC title game. It is pretty cool.
I
Those
just
planes
don't
are crazy.
how they fly so close to each other. Like, I know it's like Top Gun or whatever. We have a lot of movies, but like how they fly so close to each other is so scary.
I was wondering.
It's impressive.
Wait, I can't even remember now. At Phoenix, at the Super Bowl, the Chiefs-Eagles, they had the roof open, right?
You were there.
I can't remember. They had the roof open, and the reason they kept the roof open was so people could see the flyover.
Oh.
And then the field turned out to be garbage, which made me wonder, are we keeping this roof open and letting in moisture? I don't know how it worked. Of course, then there was about 50 articles on what happened to turf. But if it was a flyover's fault.
It was overwatered, I thought. Was that the final thing?
Something went wrong, but the entire environment was totally screwed up. But they did have a flyover. I just cannot believe this happened in Milwaukee. I don't know. It sounds like something I would do is to fly over a closed
It's
room.
your big moment. You look down from the plane. You're like, the room's closed.
Yeah, you look down from the plane. Or and now, to honor America, here's the flyover of the Ford Jets. You look up and you see nothing.
Yeah, it's just like the Bernie Brewer, just like, up on the scaffolding.
By the way, our guy Stu was at the Yankees game last night. So I watched on TV.
Yeah.
It was Phillies-Yankees, and it looked gorgeous. But it dawned on me, early April baseball is awfully cold. What was the experience like, Stu?
When we got there, it wasn't too bad. As the game went on, I would say by the 5th or 6th inning, it started getting a little chilly, I would say. And it was a little, you needed the jacket, you needed the gloves, and to put your hands into pockets type of thing.
Right.
See, baseball is the kind of sporting event that I don't enjoy being cold at.
Yes.
Like football, it comes with the territory. Football weather, there's that. But baseball weather, to me, middle of summer, just scorching hot.
If an ideal world, if you could start all over from scratch, when would you start the season and how many games would you have? Because I know you don't love going to these cold games.
I don't love going to the cold games. I wish there's, but the problem is you run into the cold in the fall.
Yes.
But I love going to games like around Memorial Day. For me, growing up in the Northeast, Memorial Day is pretty safe. You can be kind of warm in Memorial Day.
And I also think the 162-game schedule and the 82-game NBA schedule, these long schedules, the longer, they definitely, I think we're evolving as sports fans, and leagues are realizing that mainly because of load management in the NBA, the season is long, and that hurts the sport.
Well,
and the
money's in the postseason. I mean, the money's in the regular season for the individual teams and the owners and stuff, but the money's also in the postseason for the TV contracts.
But football, NFL football has it down, and they have an 18-week schedule. Every game is appointment viewing, and it's once a week. And I just think that's why it feels so fresh and vibrant every week. Where right now, I told you I went to a Knicks-Wizards game the other day.
Yeah.
It was basically, it was a bunch of G Leaguers on the Wizards.
Yeah.
And the Knicks didn't even play their starters because they're like, why do we have to play their starters? The season's just too long. This is obvious, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I thought 72 was really good when they had the pandemic kind of pushed the season previous back. So I like 72. For baseball, I would probably say what's good, 120. Probably good, something like that.
We never got to the NBA midseason tournament.
Oh, yeah, the midseason tournament. So it looks like that's going to be a go, y'all. It might be, Carlos is already shaking his head. It's not a fan, huh?
Who is a fan?
Exactly. To me.
Okay, so here's a few of the details that I could glean about this. So it's not going to be a lot of extra games. It's not like the season pauses and then you have this tournament. What's going to happen, and Ackerman, you can correct me here if I'm wrong on some of this, but games starting in November are going to start counting towards, regular season games are going to start counting towards the midseason tournament and some type of seeding situation. And then the 8 teams with the best records, I believe, in these certain games are going to advance to a single elimination tournament. So they're saying really only the team that gets to the finals plays an extra game. And the winners get $500,000 or something.
So it's the only so what's the difference? So you're basically saying you take a midseason Grizzlies-Spurs game and just label it as a midseason tournament game.
I think so. I think that, Ackerman, am I right about that?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Because they don't want to add more games. That's not the point of this. We already just said 82 is more than enough for the NBA. So this is a way to do a single elimination tournament without adding more games.
So is anybody going to care who wins this tournament?
Well, you got to hope the players care first, because if the players care, then maybe it will trickle to the fans.
It kind of feels like winning the Summer League.
So here's the thing, though, about sports like hockey and basketball. You get no single elimination. Even baseball got to the wild card. Now that's not even single elimination. But when it did, that's why the NCAA tournament is so great. That's why the NFL playoffs are so great.
But you get Game 7.
But you don't always.
But when you do get them, they're great because they're rare. NHL and NBA Game 7s are thrilling. So, in a sense, you do have single elimination there.
I get it, but you, first of all, have to get all the way to a Game 7, and even if you get there. So, I think they're trying to see and give their fans the experience of what a single elimination tournament is like.
I just feel like if you win this midseason tournament, say you're the Atlanta Hawks win this midseason tournament, is that a real point of pride? And if you're an opposing fan who won the NBA title, aren't you saying that is so lame that you're bragging about the midseason tournament? Like, get with the program. The whole point is to win an NBA title.
Well, I guess the counterpoint would be is if you have a young roster, say, that is not going to win the title this year, but that can still be really exciting.
Okay.
Like if you're the Orlando Magic, or if you're the Utah Jazz, or if you're like the Grizzlies a year ago or whatever. Maybe it's a team that you're not really sure this team is actually ready for a title, but could they be ready for a single elimination tournament? Definitely. And if they really care and they're going to get money at the end of it, then sure.
I don't know. It has an NIT versus NCAA championship feel to me. Do you even, like, no one cares about the NIT. Do you even know who won the NIT?
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot.
No, why would you?
No. I saw this the other day. I saw that only 1,000 people showed up to the final. Ackerman, bail me out. Who won the
North
NIT?
Texas?
North Texas beat UAB.
The Mean Green. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Cool. Got that. Got the mascot.
I mean, the perfect analogy. It feels like
How's that for analysis?
It's the Intercontinental belt compared to the WWE belt. It's basically
that tickled Ackerman's funny bone.
Yeah, it's basically
a little upset with that.
Yeah, it's Ricky Steamboat versus Hulk Hogan.
That's a real modern reference, you guys. I thought you were going to drop some WrestleMania from the weekend.
Yeah, do they still have the Intercontinental belt though?
Definitely.
I thought they got rid of it because I actually stole that joke from somewhere, and they mentioned, I think, Ricky Steamboat.
But I think they're still the Intercontinental champ.
Yeah, Gunther's the Intercontinental
Who is
champ.
it now?
Oh, Gunther.
Yeah, he beat Sheamus and Drew McIntyre to retain.
Gunther is the guy who they had to change his character.
He's essentially the same guy. They just changed his name.
They changed
it used
his
to be
name
Walter.
because it was a copyright thing or something.
Yeah, something or other. But then they went from one bland name to like a generic bland name.
How was WrestleMania?
Night 1 was really good. Night 2 was very mid.
Got it.
Yeah, you want to talk about deep analysis there. You can go really into this. I was very unhappy with some of the creative decisions in Night 2, but, all in all, it's like a successful event for the company. So
of course.
I guess.
That's a common refrain that ever since Vince has been back, some of the creative the creative turns that they've taken.
It felt like he touched Sunday Night 2 a little bit.
Yeah, and people are not happy about that. So.
See, that's where we differ from my generation of wrestling. We never talked about the creativity. It was either you won or you lost.
Yeah, it was either like Andre the Giant. Yeah, it's like who's the biggest like freakish person we can find.
And how do they do it?
Yeah. No, it's all about the storylines.
Creativity.
Now. Yeah.
Well, what are we winning Oscars at WrestleMania? Come on.
Listen, today's fan act. You got a lot of competition out there. You got to keep them engaged.
I guess.
Really, all I needed was Jimmy Snuka jumping off the top rope, and I was good.
I know.
That was plenty of drama for me.
Now people are doing that, a million times over. With like, the degree of difficulty is up to significantly. Okay, see you guys on the phones. Get to you in just a moment. We promise. And we'll do a lot more, including this one story that I've been dying to get to. I've never heard of this term before in my life. It's a dating term. We'll get to that in just a moment after this CBS Sports Update with Rich Ackerman.
Sports Flag.
Just a few games left in the NBA season with playoff spots to be earned. The Thunder have a one-game lead over the Mavericks for the right to be the final team in the play-in scenario. They'll take on the Warriors, the defending champs, clinging to a one-game lead over the Lakers for the final guaranteed playoff berth. L.A. will take on the Jazz in Utah. They've won their last 3 and 6 of 7 with Anthony Davis coming off a 40-point performance. And head coach Darvin Ham said the big man heating up at the right time.
I feel like I'm back to myself before the injury. But we're all playing well. We're making it. The guys are making it easy for me. Letting me have a lot of space to operate. And then when I don't, find the guys making the right play and they're making shots. So everybody, I think our whole team is in a great rhythm.
Big AD and the Idle Clippers also a game in front of the Lakers. At the top of the conference, Denver looking to hold off Memphis. The West leaders are up by 3 games and will take on the Rockets in Houston while the Grizzlies host Portland. The Bucks 2 games in front of the Celtics meet the Wizards in Washington while the Celts are in Philadelphia. And the Padres right now have a 3-1 lead over the Diamondbacks, bottom of the 5th, Nelson Cruz with a home run for San Diego. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet. Find us on your local affiliate, SiriusXM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff hanging out with you on what was a very busy Tuesday. So let's waste no time. Let's get to our shot of the day.
He shoots!
The shot of the day is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it. And by the way, it's like 72 here today in New York. It's like the first real warm day. And I was like, oh, it's Casamigos weather.
Definitely.
I mean, all year round Casamigos weather, but this is when it really kicks into high gear. Okay, so today's snapshot of the day, shot of the day. Well, Perloff and I caught on a hot mic today.
Of course, I'm watching on YouTube, and I saw Perloff doing his spot for the Odyssey Sports Minute, and he mentioned Duke as a blue blood. How is Duke a blue blood when...
Wait, you can hear the Odyssey Sports
No, I think it just played nationwide.
Oh. Honestly, I just recorded it. There's no way it's playing nationwide.
You got to see it in the break when you were doing it on YouTube.
But how did you hear it?
They must not have cut because we all saw it.
Apparently on the video feed, it was not switched over to muting.
So radio didn't hear it.
Radio did not hear it.
It doesn't exist for another hour.
Okay.
But the video feed, it got through.
That's something. The chat can hear our conversations in the break. Uh-oh.
Wait, but our mics weren't on. Oh, I turned it on for the Sports Minute.
All right,
Team
we're going to
meeting.
digest
Team meeting.
If you could not tell, that was pure panic in both of our voices.
Oh, yeah.
But Carlos, you're good. You're off the hook. Nobody heard anything. But thank you to Nebby who pointed that out to us.
Yeah.
It's great. I am loving it.
Yeah. Thank God Nebby pointed out, and I don't think I said anything embarrassing to her. That you got to hear the 9 takes to do a 32-second read.
It's basically 20 seconds is the Sports Minute.
This is Andrew Perloff with an Odyssey Sports Minute. This is Andrew Perloff.
It's just so funny that not only did they hear it, it was like crystal clear to the point where he knew your take. Yeah. It was like, and I have a bone to pick with it.
Just digging that knife deeper and deeper.
Carlos,
by the way, okay.
If that's the worst thing that happens around here, you're good.
Maybe we should have some stuff that's during the break with our mics open so people in the chat can respond.
Oh, a little bonus content?
But the problem is then the hours and hours of trash talk about other people.
No.
Come on.
You guys never do that. Come on.
No, come on.
You cannot exist in the sports media industry and not trash talk other people. You'd be a unicorn. You would be such a freak. There'd be something wrong with you.
We're just so classy. We wouldn't dare.
Can you believe this guy, Carlos?
Yeah.
No, it was good. I'm glad they didn't catch our other conversation. It's like, he was indicted on what?
Oh, yeah.
Answer the phones. 855-212-4CBS. What was in that?
Yeah.
We don't discuss that on the show. 855-212-4227. Right down the middle. Phil is in Pennsylvania. Phil, what's up, dude?
Hey, Maggie. Hey, Perloff. I just want to let you know that it should have been my idea to invite the runners-up of the women's NCAA basketball tournament back to the Oval Office because I guarantee that I'd be able to turn their frowns upside down.
Oh, okay.
All right. And I want to make one thing absolutely clear, that I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Phil, you put a little McConaughey from Dazed and Confused in there, too.
It's Bill Clinton and Matthew McConaughey together. I know. It happens. Phil, thank you.
And also, Bill Clinton can quickly turn into Jerry Jones in the sports industry.
Yeah.
Dan used to do that. Dan would start with Jerry Jones and Dan Patrick, sorry, and then it would veer into Bill Clinton. So he'd start doing Jerry Jones impersonation, and he said, "I did not have sexual relations," and he's like, "I can't help myself. It just happened."
I know, and more often than not, Jerry did have sexual relations. I'm just kidding. It was right there. Allegedly, Jim's in South Carolina. Jim, what's up?
Hey guys, love the show. I got a lot to say, so I'm going to be really quick. So we're talking about the shortening the season, right?
Right.
So NBA, they basically played themselves out of it by game 60, right? So NBA in all their wisdom says, hey, let's make a 7, 8, 9, 10 play-in, which most everybody could care less about getting in there, right? They just go ahead and quit and get the best pick at the end of the season.
Right.
So the question with that is, how do you incentivize being better for longer? I don't know the answer to that question. So there's the question. How do you?
You know, Jim, I think you had it though, right? I think you had it. I think that it's expanding the playoffs That's what I think that's what both teams, both Major League Baseball and every team that does it, football, and especially NBA, they want to incentivize like people going forward at the trade deadline, and they want to incentivize just people staying in it for longer.
Oh yeah.
But with the NBA, with the draft picks, it's so much worse to be in the middle than to be really good or really bad.
Correct. In baseball, the 162 game thing is really tricky because of all the statistical data. Because baseball is statistical based, right?
Yep.
So, but the problem with 162 is that it's freezing on opening day, and it's freezing at the end of the season because they're always playing in cold weather cities, right? Like, why can't we start the season in Florida somewhere? Anyway, that's that.
But wait,
from your lips to the sports gods' ears or the schedule makers, why don't they start the season in the South? Yes,
definitely a good point. But wait, 162 games doesn't mean anything anymore because nobody cares about records anymore. So you can get rid of that.
The baseball people still care, though. They really care more than anybody else. It's not about rings; it's about statistics.
Well, the PED era kind of watered down some of the stats, though.
It did for a little while. I think it's back on the rise, though.
I mean, people were really into Aaron Judge going for 62 with Maris's record, but you still have Bonds' record out there as the single season. I mean, Jim, you're right. It's tough because also the numbers that we grew up with, mostly, thank you for the call, aren't even the ones that really count now. I guess home runs, but batting average has basically been removed from the lexicon, if you will. RBIs have been watered down. It's the new and new analytics in the game make us look at different things.
Yeah, for me, as a kid, a baseball card was worth something if the guy hit 300 or had 30 home runs. Now those stats...
300? I mean, no one's even expected to hit 300 anymore because they strike out so much.
Back then, I'm saying. Yeah. And any card that had that all-star banner on it was such a big deal as a kid. But now I just think it's so different. The sport has changed so much. I really blame a lot of this on the steroid era.
For baseball, yeah.
For baseball. I just think that I don't know what the experience was like as a kid, but for me, even Aaron Judge was watered down. We went into this a lot last year.
Yeah.
Imagine if there was no PEDs and he'd been doing that. It would have been 30% more special.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think it was still captivating, but I could be a prisoner of just sort of living in New York. But
well, I did say 30%. It was captivating. I'll admit that, but it could have been even more special.
I mean, they were breaking into college football games against everyone's wishes to show his at bats.
But you remember Sosa McGuire?
Oh yeah, that was right in my wheelhouse as a kid. But Larger Parks is in the chat, YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio. 162 is about the money. I mean, you can say that the steroid era kind of ruined things. I think honestly, can I say the TV networks? I mean, this is the problem, though. The TV networks help so much, but also it's just it's all about the money.
Well, TV networks, what do you mean for baseball?
Yeah.
But it's those local TV
the regionals. But
we've seen a reckoning in that. Then now it's a disaster where
all out of business.
Yeah, Bally Sports has had all this problem because they overpaid for rights.
Yep.
We're not going down that road.
No. That's something we'll save for the break.
Yeah, if we want to talk
catch
about
a hot mic on that one.
The general economy of sports right now.
Yeah, don't get us started. Okay, so what else do we have left to do for today that we didn't get to? Because I know there's something really, really big that I'm just forgetting here. Oh, this is what it is. The Masters. So the Masters Par 3 tournament, Perloff, is tomorrow. Of course, the tournament starts on Thursday. Did you know the LIV golfers are right now being allowed to wear the LIV Golf logo and some of their team names? They have team names. Yeah. They're trying to make golf more of a team sport on the LIV Tour, the obviously controversial Saudi-backed tour. And so basically the Masters is allowing them to wear this. It's going to be a massive advertisement for LIV Golf throughout the Masters if those players do well.
Really, really surprised me. I wonder, is this also going to be like that at the U.S. Open and the PGA? Do we have any idea? Because I would imagine no. So this feels like the Masters does what they famously do what they want. This just surprised me because I am not a huge LIV fan right now. I just think, how can you cheer for those LIV guys?
Well, it's really hard, but I think what I think is going to be fascinating is what happens if it's a LIV guy wins the tournament.
I know. I think it's going to be a bad look. Live is so lame. It's the highly funded XFL of golf. And
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I watched it the other day. I was on when I was in Houston for the Final Four, and they have all these fancy graphics, and there's all this motion. But for some reason, it didn't mean anything to me. Maybe I'll get into it.
Well, it doesn't mean a lot because there's nothing at stake.
Yes.
Like, winning the Masters is winning the Masters.
At least not yet. Yeah.
There's no, PGA points or anything that go towards your ranking or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just a money.
By the way, and doubling down on my new addiction to the XFL, I'm going to get you into that. We need to pick a team. St. Louis Battlehawks. Let's go.
I've had time to get into the XFL. I feel like if I wanted to be into it, I'd be into it. It's been a tough sell for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, give it time.
Thank you to Stu Kovacs. Thank you to Carlos Ortiz. Thank you to you guys on the phones, to the Weedos in the chat. I salute each and every